Chapter 271. Returning to Huang Village, Jian Chen continued to open up the remaining boxes only to never see another monster core. That was because within every single box after that, only the components of the cannons could be found in every shape and size. However, only 2 of the 4-meter-long barrels could be found. From this, Jian Chen could deduce that only 2 cannons could be assembled from this. However, the discovery of these 2 advanced-tier cannons had made Jian Chen extremely happy. The one worrying thing was that he had no idea how to assemble the magical crystal cannons, or what part did what. To him, all these parts may as well have been scrap iron. Forget it, it's best not to worry about this for now. I'll wait for a time when I can learn how to assemble the cannons. Jian Chen muttered to himself. After that, he collected all of the pieces within the boxes and stored them within his space ring. Then, he mounted his Class 2 magical beast and rode away from this place, leaving behind the soldiers who had died to the poison of the silver-striped golden snake. Despite the venom of the fang not yet being at its most potent state, it was still a poison that was highly fatal and thus was extremely dangerous. In such a short amount of time, these soldiers had all been killed without a single survivor besides the commander who had run away. Jian Chen rode the magical beast at a rapid pace for half a day before a small forest could be seen 500 kilometers away from where he had killed the soldiers. Finally stopping at the forest, Jian Chen began to control the Radiant Saint force to heal himself. Jian Chen's innate spirit was quite formidable. His mastery of the Radiant Saint force was at least 2 ranks higher than the previous Radiant Saint master in Wake City. In just a mere 2 hours, he was back to full health. Afterward, Jian Chen found a stream and leaped into it to wash himself. I didn't think that one of them would manage to escape. Since he was a wind attribute Earth Saint master, there's nothing I could do if he wanted to escape since my speed is much slower than his. Jian Chen muttered to himself in the river water. It's a good thing I didn't reveal my identity. In the case that the commander spreads the news, then my identity in Wake City would immediately be found out. In that case, the flame mercenaries would be completely exterminated. At that thought, there was a small sense of fear, but his identity had been kept a secret, so he could rejoice to himself. After changing his clothes for a clean pair, Jian Chen took the 5 space rings from under the tree nearby and began to inspect the items within. One of the 5 space rings was from the patriarch of the Xia clan while the other 4 were from the recently deceased commanders. The patriarch of the Xia clan had a pile of purple coins that numbered over 1,000. There were several other piles of assortments of varying value hidden within. Furthermore, there were 100 Class 4 monster cores, several hundred Class 3 monster cores, and an incomparably large amount of Class 2 monster cores. All of a sudden, when Jian Chen saw one of the contents within the space ring, his heart skipped a beat. Taking out the item from the space ring, Jian Chen looked at the simple-looking book right in front of him. The pages of the book were quite thick and were even starting to yellow. Some tears and rips from the passage of time could be seen on them. Water manipulation. The 2 words were written on the cover of the simple-looking back. As Jian Chen slowly flipped through the pages of the book, an excited look grew on his face. Unfortunately, the battle skill recorded within this manual was only that of a human-tier battle skill. Furthermore, this was something that only water-attributed Saint Force cultivators could use. Forget it, this isn't all that strong. In the case that the flame mercenaries grow stronger, then this battle skill can be a reward of some sort. Jian Chen sighed. Looking into the next space ring, a large pile of bright monster cores greeted his eyes. Jian Chen had a great big smile on his face as he realized that there were over 1,000 Class 4 monster cores in this space ring. With so many Class 4 monster cores, this must be another energy supply for the magical crystal cannons. Jian Chen muttered with his heart pounding. The profit he had earned today was extremely large. Opening up the 3rd space ring, Jian Chen discovered that it was filled with Class 4 monster cores. Aside from that, both of the space rings had a purple card along with some other daily life items. When Jian Chen opened up the last space ring, he saw a small fist-sized monster core laying in the space within. This monster core was a Class 5 monster core. Jian Chen's body went rigid as he looked at this monster core with joy. He understood that a Class 5 monster core was a precious treasure that the patriarch of the Xia clan and the Tianhua sect wouldn't hesitate to travel thousands of miles to purchase. With there being around 100 Class 5 monster cores, Jian Chen couldn't believe his eyes almost. The profit he had gained today was truly massive. Jian Chen immediately began to count the amount of Class 5 monster cores. By the time he had finished counting them all, his heart had nearly leaped out of his throat. In total, there were around 232 Class 5 monster cores. Jian Chen tried to quell his trembling body. If one had all these Class 5 monster cores, then they would be able to power up the advanced tier cannons and shoot them. With this amount of Class 5 monster cores, it was even possible to shoot 200 times and completely level a first-class city. After half a day, Jian Chen had finally began to calm down as he collected the rest of the spoils before continuing on the road on his mount. A day later, Jian Chen had stopped right in front of the entrance to the mountains. Abandoning his mount, Jian Chen proceeded into the mountains on foot. This mountain range was rather ordinary looking, but the world essence was withering slightly, causing only wild beasts to be born. Occasionally, there would be a Class 1 or Class 2 magical beast, but nothing higher. The dense foliage covered the surrounding area along with the treetops whose branches and leaves obscured the sky above so that even the mountains themselves were hidden. This mountain range didn't have the malicious atmosphere like the magical beast mountain range. With Jian Chen's memory of the area, he quickly made his way back to Huang village where he had left roughly a month ago. Jian Chen swept across the site of Huang village with excitement. When Roscoe had seen him, he immediately gathered everyone in the village to celebrate. That night, the entire Huang village gathered to celebrate Jian Chen's successful return. The injuries on Ming Dong's body had finished healing half a month ago. Thankfully, he had remained behind in Huang village and continued to cultivate to improve his strength diligently. Occasionally, he would follow some of the other men from the village to go hunting. With his Saint Master strength, he was easily able to kill some wild beasts. With him living within Huang village, the entire village was able to eat more often and more luxuriously. Thus, Ming Dong quickly rose to a popular status within the village. Not a single person in Huang village didn't respect and admire his strength. Chapter 272, Tianqin Clan. Later that night, Jian Chen and Ming Dong gathered together within a small room. Seeing how much better you're looking now, you must be fully recovered. Jian Chen commented as he smiled at Ming Dong. Nodding his head, Ming Dong replied, "It was all thanks to the medicine you left behind. Otherwise, it would have taken much longer for me to fully recover. Thanks to that, I was able to cultivate by myself peacefully and increase my strength by a large amount." Jian Chen nodded with praise. "Not bad, you're a peak Saint Master now. With your cultivation talent, I suspect that within a month, you'll make the breakthrough to become a great Saint Master. As long as there is enough monster cores, then I'll definitely be able to reach the great Saint Master realm by 3 months at most." Ming Dong's face was filled with determination. He couldn't help but feel proud of his training talent. Whenever he thought of Jian Chen, the prideful look on his face was instantly wiped away. Although his own talent at cultivation was beyond most people, Ming Dong knew that there was an extremely large difference in talent between him and Jian Chen. Jian Chen didn't look a day older than 20, but he had already reached the realm of the great Saint Masters. He himself was already 27 years old, several years older than Jian Chen, yet his strength was only at the peak Saint Master level. With this, it would be more accurate to measure between the heavens and the earth. Jian Chen held out a dozen Class 4 monster cores to Ming Dong. "Continue to increase your strength then. You need not to worry about obtaining any monster cores, just leave all of that to me, but what you need to bear in mind is that cultivation to increase your strength is a step-by-step process. If you try to rush ahead recklessly, then who knows what hidden dangers in the future will affect your progress. Knowing how generous Jian Chen was, Ming Dong didn't dare to argue. Accepting the monster cores handed to him, he said, "Don't worry, I am well aware of this." "Good. Ah. Are you aware of the gathering of the mercenaries that happens twice every 100 years? Jian Chen suddenly asked. Ming Dong nodded his head. "I've wandered around for countless of months, so the gathering of the mercenaries is something I've heard mentioned before. They mention it as a relatively fierce competition, and those with a low level of strength would do best to not participate. Otherwise, they would find it hard to escape with their lives intact." Jian Chen nodded in approval. "I've heard that the chances of dying are quite high, but the rewards offered are also endlessly rich, causing all mercenaries to be driven mad by them." Hearing this, Ming Dong's heart skipped a beat for a moment as he stared with concentration at Jian Chen. "Don't tell me that you wish to participate in the gathering of the mercenaries." Jian Chen didn't bother to deny it. "Correct, that is my plan." "It's best not to go," Ming Dong exclaimed. "Although I don't know much about the gathering of the mercenaries, I've heard that it is filled with danger. If one isn't at the Earth Saint Master realm, then they shouldn't participate or risk dying." Jian Chen chuckled without a care in the world. "Don't worry. Although I am not an Earth Saint Master, I can still protect my own life. A heaven-tier battle skill is far too tempting to let me pass up on it." Ming Dong's face grew incomparably serious as he stared at Jian Chen for a while. Finally, after confirming that Jian Chen wasn't joking, he let out a single breath of air. "It seems that you are resolute on participating in the gathering of the mercenaries." "Correct, I am determined to go. Tomorrow I will depart from the village. You should go with me. Huang village is far too peaceful, and that may become ingrained in you if you stay here long enough." "Fine then. I was beginning to get restless the past few days. If it weren't for me waiting for you to come back, I would have left this place long ago." By the second morning, Jian Chen and Ming Dong both notified the village of their departure. Leaving behind a large amount of food, they left the village. In regards to Ming Dong leaving, the entire Huang village was quite reluctant to see him leave, but they all knew that Ming Dong wouldn't be content to continue living in the village. He would leave the village sooner or later. As long as he treated the world as a place to travel and explore, he would not want to stay where he was now. The village could only hope that both Jian Chen and Ming Dong would come and visit whenever they had time in the future. After all, Huang village was deep within the mountain range that was isolated from the rest of the continent. Travelers here were far and few. 2 days later, Jian Chen and Ming Dong both finally walked out of the mountains, and with another day of traveling, both men finally arrived at a second-class city. From far away, they could see a stream of merchants and mercenaries flowing in and out of the city. The amount of soldiers at the city gates numbered around 300, with each one of them inspecting both merchants and mercenaries alike. Obstructing their paths, they would talk for a moment before letting them pass. Even the walls were filled with troops of elite soldiers from the city who looked down on everyone with intense glares. What's going on? Just why are there so many soldiers? I don't recall it being like this before. I can only assume that something major has happened. I was in Antelope City yesterday and the guards there were plenty as well. The entire city has soldiers moving about everywhere as if they're searching for someone. What an uproar, don't you all know? My cousin in a nearby city is the captain of the soldiers, but I heard that a spy from the Jessen Kingdom has infiltrated our Blue Wind Kingdom. Even the 300 soldiers of the elite storm troop were killed. The spy took all of the monster cores and ran, making even His Majesty furious. Right now, every single person in the kingdom is looking for the spy. Many people were talking among each other by the gates with great pleasure. Though, as Jian Chen heard this topic, he couldn't help but smile coldly. It was almost definite that the loss of all those monster cores was an unbearable loss for the kingdom. After waiting for half the day, everyone in front of them had entered the city, making it Ming Dong and Jian Chen's turn to be inspected. "Halt, what is your purpose here?" Immediately, a few soldiers stopped the two and asked them a question. Jian Chen gave a faint smile. "Fellow brothers, we are two mercenaries that wish to stay here for a while and replenish our essentials." Jian Chen held his mercenary emblem for the soldiers to see. The soldiers inspected the emblem given to them for a small moment before looking over at the two mercenaries. "You two don't look like spies, you may enter." Jian Chen and Ming Dong both walked into the city unobstructed. Afterward, Jian Chen walked down the streets only to realize that portraits had been plastered everywhere throughout the alleys. The person described on the portrait was similar to Jian Chen in stature, but the strange thing was that his appearance was not described at all. With a portrait like this, just how are we supposed to find the spy? We don't even know what this spy looks like, so how could we find him? We don't know what the spy even looks like, even if he was standing right in front of us, we wouldn't know. Why couldn't they just draw up a portrait so we would know just what we need to look for? With so many people looking at the portrait, everyone could only grumble at the descriptions on it. The ruler of the Blue Wind Kingdom truly wishes to find me with a portrait like this? This is nothing more than a fool's journey. There are many people with a physique like this. Hell, the entire street is filled with people that match such a description. Could they want to just capture every single person with this description? Jian Chen chuckled to himself as he looked at the portrait. Right, without knowing the appearances of this spy, this portrait is nothing more than decoration. Ming Dong replied by his side. Leaving the area, they both walked deeper into the city where plenty of magical beast stables were gathered near the marketplace. The magical beast stables were an unfrequented place. Almost as if it were a big shack, there were only 30 or so magical beast mounts laying about. The magical beast mounts at the stables were of the more docile type without the ability to fight at all. Their prices reflected this because they were quite steep, making very few people unable to afford one, thus, very little people came by the stables. Within the stables, Jian Chen had spent around 500 purple coins in order to purchase 2 Class 3 magical beasts adept in long-distance traveling before going to an inn to rest. By the next morning, they were ready to leave the city. Right now there was only half a year until the gathering of the mercenaries began. In such a short time span, the two would have to hurry up and travel without any breaks. The distance between Mercenary City to where they were currently at was far too wide. They would have to cross multiple kingdoms and travel hundreds of thousands of kilometers. Jian Chen and Ming Dong both rode their Class 3 magical beasts off on the official roads at a rapid pace. Dirt and mud splattered behind their trails like a long dragon made of dirt. Many merchants and mercenaries cried out in annoyance as Jian Chen and Ming Dong blew past them. After seeing their Class 3 magical beast, they knew better than to provoke them. 2 days later, Jian Chen and Ming Dong left the Blue Wind Kingdom and continued on their journey. During the daytime, they would travel as much as they could while at night the two would continue to cultivate. They continued this pattern for half a month, and like this, they made their way past the Third Kingdom and had already traveled several thousand kilometers. In the plains, Jian Chen and Ming Dong stopped by the side of the road to rest for a while. Jian Chen held a map in his hand as he tried to make sure of his position and destination. Ming Dong, judging from the symbols on the map, there's a first-class city 50 kilometers ahead. We should head there and rest for a while and see if there's an even better magical beast mount to be found. Jian Chen mentioned without lifting his head from the map. Opening up his canteen to take a sip, Ming Dong replied, "Good. Since you're not lacking money, then changing our mounts will be a good thing. Although a Class 3 magical beast is quite fast, if we continued on to Mercenary City like this, then it'll take us another 2 or 3 months." Shortly after stopping, the travel-weary Jian Chen and Ming Dong entered the city called Wallerant City. Walorant City was a first-class city that expanded over a large area. The entire city was filled with bustling activities with streets so wide that several chariots could ride through them at the same time. There were multiple restaurants of varying sizes by the streets with merchants and mercenaries walking together, chatting. Walorant City was fairly decent, with its wide streets with no trash or garbage to be seen. It was far more orderly. Wake City in comparison had many mercenaries with their stalls cluttered together by the side of the streets. From this, the difference between a first-class city and a third-class city could clearly be seen. Suddenly, a large sound could be heard coming from behind. At this, Jian Chen turned his head to look only to see a group of brightly dressed transporters carry a luxurious chariot down the street. On the chariot, a yellow-colored banner could be seen waving high in the air with the word Qin written on it. Chapter 273, Tianqin Clan, 2, Move aside. Anyone in our path should make way. A few men cried out from the very front as the people in the streets moved toward the side. It's the Tianqin clan, what's the matter with them? Come on, let's get out of the way, we can't afford to cause trouble with them. It's the Tianqin clan, hurry and get out of the way. If you block their way, then who knows what might happen to you. Both merchants and mercenaries alike hurriedly made their way to the side of the streets, leaving behind an empty street for the Tianqin clan to walk through. As soon as the carriage passed through, the men immediately walked back onto the middle of the street. Jian Chen and Ming Dong both drew close to the edge of the streets as well. However, since everyone had already crowded against the side, the majority of the area was already occupied. So Jian Chen and Ming Dong had no other choice but to stand on the outermost area which had made them stick out just enough to be noticed. Out of the way, I said, did you not hear me, or are you courting death? The forerunner cried out as he glared at Jian Chen. With a flick of his wrist, a single black whip flew toward Ming Dong. Jian Chen's eyes flashed dangerously at this. How insolent of the Tianqin clansmen! Just as Jian Chen prepared to move, Ming Dong had took a step back and grabbed at the whip. With a fierce pull, the owner of the whip flew off from his mount and landed fiercely on the ground. Halt! With that, the entire Tianqin clan's fleet suddenly came to a screeching halt. Every single movement was almost identical and orderly, just like the formation of an elite squadron. Outrageous! What youngster dares to block the path of the young lady of the Tianqin clan? Men, arrest him! Another man cried out in rage as he pointed at Ming Dong. Yes! A person volunteered as he charged at Ming Dong. Ming Dong's face grew dark as he sent an apologetic glance to Jian Chen. His previous action had been completely involuntary, nor did he really think about the consequences. It was only now did he realize that he had just offended a powerful clan. Jian Chen laughed at the worried Ming Dong. Don't be afraid, do what you will. Ming Dong nodded his head slightly and then leaped down from his mount. A cyan-colored glow began to emanate from his body before he began to fight the person coming at him. None of his attackers were using their saint weapons, so he had lashed out with his own fists as well. Jian Chen looked at Ming Dong with a look of surprise before revealing a bright smile on his face. I didn't think that not only is Ming Dong a genius at cultivation, but that he would also be a wind-attributed saint master. With the help of his wind saint force, Ming Dong was extremely fast. As he and the others began to fight, those attackers had already begun to be pushed back. To even attack our guards, your death won't absolve your crimes. At this fight, a large group of men from the Tianqin clan immediately thundered out loud. A middle-aged man flew down from his mount with a surge of saint force. He flew at Ming Dong to attack him. With a sneer, Jian Chen brought out his light wind sword in an instant and flew toward the middle-aged man to strike at the blade in his hand. Ding! The light wind sword and the man's newly formed battle axe collided in mid-air with a loud clang. Immediately, the sword gleamed past the axe and with a bright ray of silver light, the sword swept past the man's throat. Falling back to the ground, the middle-aged man's face was extremely ugly to look at as he looked at Jian Chen with shock. Reabsorbing his sword, Jian Chen cupped his hands together and spoke, "Sire, this was the fault of my brother here, but that is not a crime punishable by death. This one hopes that Sire looks the other way this one time." Jian Chen's voice wasn't rude, but it wasn't polite either. The Tianqin clan were extremely powerful within the first-class Walorant city. While Jian Chen wasn't afraid of such a powerful clan, he didn't wish to offend them at this given time. The man looked at Jian Chen with shock and a hint of fear as his face began to pale, but he did not say anything. "Just what has happened?" A sweet-sounding voice could be heard. The voice was pleasant to hear, just like the sounds of a skylark. Hearing this, Jian Chen averted his gaze to look at the white-robed veiled woman who walked out from her carriage. Her appearance was covered by a white-colored gauze so that it was completely impossible to see her visage. "Second miss, please hurry back to your carriage, we'll take care of this matter straight away." A guard immediately spoke out to her respectfully. The female looked at Jian Chen and Ming Dong for a small moment before speaking gently. "While I was inside the carriage, I could hear everything that happened outside quite clearly. This matter was our fault completely. Guards, hurry up and apologize." Hearing this, the guard fighting Ming Dong hesitated for a moment, but after seeing Jian Chen's strength, he could only utter a small apology. Jian Chen waved his hand casually to say something apologetic in return before preparing to leave the place. At that moment, the sounds of hooves could be heard as a blue-robed middle-aged man came riding forward with his Class 3 magical beast mount. "Second sister, you've been gone for so long without telling your older brother, so what better than for your older brother to come greet you?" The man rode at a decent pace for a moment before stopping right in front of the Tianqin clan's carriage. The youth was of a sturdy build and wore blue robes. Underneath his robes, his black pants could be seen with his hair reaching down to his shoulder. From his appearances, he looked to be 30 years old. "Look, it's the young lord of Tianqin clan. How lucky we are today to see him. With how rarely he walks out of the Tianqin clan compound, I didn't think he would show up right now. I've heard the young lord of the Tianqin clan is a genius at cultivation. With the help of the Tianqin clan's entire strength, he was able to make the breakthrough to become a great Saint Master at the young age of 28. Now that he's over 30 years old, I don't know just how strong the young lord is. My father is one of the guards for the Tianqin clan. I've heard him say that in battle, the young lord is extremely violent. Every day the young lord would fight against the captain of the guards, but the captain would always come out with a splitting headache afterward." At the appearance of this youth, the entire group of spectators began to whisper among themselves. The young lord of the Tianqin clan pretended not to listen to these words and looked at the lady with concern. "Second sister, are they trying to bully you? Tell your older brother and I'll fight them for you." The moment after the young lord spoke, one of the guards hurriedly spoke out, "Young lord, while we were guiding the second Miss chariot, these two men came up to obstruct our path. Even more so, they had the courage to injure one of our guardians and underestimate our clan." Hearing this, the young lord cast a dangerous glare at Jian Chen before growling, "Just who are you to provoke my Tianqin clan? Do you truly think my clan to be that easy to bully? Guardian." The moment she heard the man speak, she had a displeased look on her face and turned to her older brother to speak gently. "Elder brother, the situation is not like that. Don't trouble them too much. The cause of this situation is because of these guardians with no etiquette." After hearing his sister speak, the tension on the young lord's face began to ease up before immediately coming back with a fiercer glow in his eyes. "It doesn't matter who's in the wrong, but you blocked the path of my second sister. This isn't something I'll let off so lightly. Let me fight with you. If you can beat me, then this matter will be resolved." A surge of saint force went to the young lord's hand, instantly forming a giant blade. In an instant, he flew off his horse and charged at Jian Chen. Jian Chen brought out his saint weapon as well and began to fill the air with sword chi near the charging young lord. The sounds of weapon smashing against weapon could be heard clashing against each other. After a series of rounds, Jian Chen had realized that the young lord was already at the peak Great Saint Master level, making him slightly stronger than Jian Chen. However, Jian Chen's sword was fast enough for the young lord to have to commit most of his efforts to dodging the sword. In another 3 exchanges, Jian Chen clearly had the advantage over the young lord. Armorize! The young lord roared. A large amount of brown-colored light began to exude from his body before forming an earthen-like layer of armor over his body. From the outer appearance, it looked like an actual set of armor. With the constant flowing glow of Earth Saint force, the armor looked to be almost unbreakable. Armorize? I've heard that this is a defensive saint technique for those with an Earth Saint force. No other secret technique is capable of such an effect. I didn't think the young lord of the Tianqin clan would be capable of such a saint technique. Is this not the strongest defensive technique the young lord has? I didn't think that this youth would be able to force the young lord to such a state so quickly. If he is able to force the young lord to this degree, then that means this youth is quite strong. Under the heavens, there are surely many types of wonders. I didn't think that this youth would be so strong already. His potential surely will be great. Seeing the young lord's armor, both the spectators and guardians of the Tianqin clan began to murmur among themselves in surprise. The young lord stared gravely at Jian Chen and said sternly, "Your sword is quite fast, and dodging your blows is becoming too tiring for me to continue doing. Since you were able to force me to use my ultimate defense, you are qualified to be my rival. From here on out, I'll use my entire strength. Prepare yourself." Chapter 274. Friends. Through fighting, the young lord stared gravely at Jian Chen and said sternly, "Your sword is quite fast, and dodging your blows is becoming too tiring for me to continue doing. Since you were able to force me to use my ultimate defense, you are qualified to be my rival. From here on out, I'll use my entire strength. Prepare yourself." Brandishing his light wind sword so that the tip of the sword was pointed toward the ground. His eyes stared at the young lord for a moment before saying, "Make your move." The young lord's eyes gained a dangerous gleam of light before he grew serious. Earth storm. Suddenly, a rich amount of Earth Saint force flew from his body and instantly transformed the earth and dust around Jian Chen and him into a dust storm 10 meters in circumference. Jian Chen's visibility was limited so that he could only see the Earth Saint force and not even his hands. Everywhere he turned, he couldn't see more than an inch in front of him. The sight reminded of Jian Chen of being stuck in a quagmire. There was an uncomfortable feeling that seemed as if it was restricting his movements and made him slightly cautious. Could this be a battle skill? What a strange one. Jian Chen muttered to himself. All of a sudden, his eyes flashed once before stabbing forward with his light wind sword. Ding! Following a metallic sound, a sword that was previously hidden in the dust storm was revealed. Knocked away by the force of the light wind sword, the dust storm began to waver before Jian Chen's sword then struck out in quick succession once more. Outside the dust storm, none of the spectators were able to see what was transpiring inside. They could only hear the continuous stream of weapons clashing against each other. The dust storm continued to ravage the area with an erratic pattern that felt as if it would dissipate at any moment. On the other side, the Tianqin clan's guardians all looked with an unwavering gazes at the dust storm. The outstanding young lord of the Tianqin clan versus the foreign youth, just which one of the two was stronger? Some of the guardians had a worried look on their faces as they continued to wait. The genius that was the young lord of the Tianqin clan was their pride and joy. The guardians of the clan definitely did not wish for their pride and joy to be beaten by an even younger youth. Even the young woman that was standing within the carriage couldn't help but stare relentlessly at the two men fight within the dust storm. Despite not knowing just what was happening inside, she knew from the state of the dust storm that her elder brother was not doing well. "Guardian, this disturbance is because of you. When we return back to the compound, you and the rest will be punished." the lady complained to the guardian with a strict tone. Upon hearing those words, the guardians all grew white as they started to panic. The patriarch of the Tianqin clan doted upon the second miss as if she were the favorite daughter. If she were to say some choice words to the patriarch, then there would be a fierce punishment to be had. With that thought, a few of the guardians began to panic before apologizing. The second miss lesson is just. This is the fault of our guardians. When we return we will receive our punishment in the punishment hall. At that moment, the dust storm shook once more erratically before the dust storm grew faint, revealing the situation inside. Jian Chen stood at the center with his sword in his right hand pointing down toward the ground. 5 meters away from him, the armored young lord stood with his giant sword stabbed into the ground. While there didn't seem to be a difference after fighting since both combatants' clothes were still completely intact, but those with good eyes were able to see that the earthen armor on the young lord was dimmer than before. The flow of earth-saint force that had been there before had all but disappeared. Reabsorbing his sword, the young lord smiled at Jian Chen. "Not bad, your strength is quite strong. In this generation, you are the only one who made me feel that a loss was inevitable. I, Qin Shao, accept my defeat." Reabsorbing his own sword, Jian Chen cupped his hands toward the young lord. "The lord is too polite. This battle was a draw, a conclusive outcome is far too early to say." From the words of the young lord, Jian Chen had concluded that he was a straightforward person. A loss is a loss, there is nothing humiliating about it at all. "I, Shao Qin, am not a sore loser." Waving his hand, the young lord spoke with a casual tone about the battle. At this, Jian Chen's opinion of the young changed drastically. He now started to see him in a more respectful light. The young lord cupped his hands in respect. "What might be the name of fellow brother and which teacher have you studied under? With the strength you have at such a young age, there is no way you are a nameless person." Cupping his hands, Jian Chen replied, "The young lord praises too much. This one is named Jian Chen. My master is a nameless hermit within one of the deep mountain ranges." Qin Shao walked up to Jian Chen. His physique was so defined that Jian Chen in comparison seemed very fragile. With the two standing next to each other, the difference was far too clear. Slapping Jian Chen's shoulder, Qin Shao said, "Brother Jian Chen, just call me Qin Shao. That way, it'll sound much better to me. Everyone within my clan calls me that." With that, he stopped speaking for a second before saying, "Brother Jian Chen, you are the first one in a generation to defeat me. I, Qin Shao, truly admire that. Thus, I would like to invite you to my Tianqin clan as a guest. Would you do me the honor?" There was a surprised look on Jian Chen's face as he hesitated for a moment. He hadn't thought that he would suddenly be invited to be the guest of the Tianqin clan. He had only just arrived at Valorant City and so he wasn't familiar with the clan. He had only just learned of the clan not too long ago, and while the young lord seemed to be quite honest and straightforward, with this recent fight, if there was someone within the clan that harbored hard feelings then Jian Chen would be like a sheep walking into the den of a tiger. However, Qin Shao didn't even wait for Jian Chen to make a decision and pulled Jian Chen's shoulder in a friendly manner to walk with him. "Let's go, brother Jian Chen. The moment I first saw you I knew it was fate. Let us go back to the compound and have a chat." The young lady who had been standing there looked at her elder brother who was holding Jian Chen close by as if he was his sworn brother with disbelief. What was even more unbelievable was that this was the first time that she had seen her elder brother treat such a person like a good friend. Seeing how the relationship between the young Lord Qin Shao and Jian Chen changed for the better so quickly, the guardians who had previously looked at the fight looked at each other in disbelief. The one who had wanted to kill Ming Dong looked especially anxious. His face grew worrisome as his face scrunched up. When he had first recklessly tried to cast the blame, he had began to regret everything. The Tianqin clan was an incredibly influential clan within Valorant City. They could be said to be the #1 clan in the city, and even the lord of the city was of the Tianqin clan as well as being the younger brother of the patriarch. Even though they were the number one clan in Walorant City, the Tianqin clan's main compound was not in the middle of the city. Instead, they were on the edge of the city in one of the more elegant parts where there was a nice manor house. Around the manor, work had been done so that a stream of river flowed around it with countless of fragrant plants surrounding it as well. The mysterious fragrance was so strong that anyone who smelled it would be instantly awakened from their slumber. Jian Chen and Ming Dong both accepted Qin Zhao's invitation and walked alongside him. On the road, Qin Zhao continued to talk with Jian Chen about matters concerning his clan. However, none of which were anything confidential and were anything that anyone living Walorant City could find out. The Tianqin clan already had 400 years of history. Ever since their foundation, they had resided within Walorant City and silently grew. After 400 years, their strength had reached an incredibly strong level beyond anyone's comprehension. Even the young lord of the Tianqin clan, Qin Zhao, only knew a thin layer of it. The Tianqin clan had initially been founded by two people, thus the Tianqin clan was separated into two veins. One vein was called the Tian, the other was called the Qin. Both were of equal status and power. They would help each other all for the sake of the betterment of the Tianqin clan. Walking into the compound, Jian Chen continued to look around himself. In his heart, he couldn't help but compare it to his Changyang clan. Noticing that the clan guards were quite strict like his clan, it was still quite different from his Changyang clan in general. Turning his head to his sister, Qin Zhao spoke up, "Second sister, since it's been quite long since your return, you should go see father. After so long, father has been worried." The second sister of the Qin family stood quietly behind her elder brother. Both of her bright eyes blinked in a curious manner as she looked at Jian Chen's back. "Yes, I know. Elder brother, please go receive the guest while I go see father." The second sister then walked away with two maids, leaving Jian Chen and her elder brother alone. Within the Tianqin clan's compound, Jian Chen, Ming Dong and Qin Zhao sat within his personal compound and talked over some wine and fine food. The aroma of exotic fragrances could be smelled as it tempted everyone's appetite. On the side, there were a few maids pouring wine for the three. "Brother Jian Chen, you are the first person I, Qin Zhao, have truly admired. You are the very first person that has beaten me within Walorant City in this generation and forced me to accept my defeat. Come, let us have a toast," Qin Zhao said as he raised his cup into the air. Chapter 275, Late Night Ambush. There was a forced smile on Jian Chen's face. He hadn't thought that he and the young lord of the Tianqin clan would become friends so quickly. However, the outspoken and straightforward personality of Qin Zhao had made a favorable impression on him. With a polite word, Jian Chen raised his own wine cup and took a single sip. "Brother Jian Chen, your strength is quite strong. In the future when you have time, we must compare notes. Right now, the captain of the guards is the only one capable of fighting me. There aren't many willing to fight with me, and I dare not find Earth Saint Masters to fight with since I would easily be overpowered," Qin Zhao explained as he drank from his cup. "Of course, as long as I am here, then I will definitely compare notes with brother Qin Zhao." Jian Chen laughed. While Qin Zhao was fierce while fighting, right now, he was a pleasant companion to talk to. It was because of this personality of his that made him preferable than to those who were hypocritical. "Brother Jian Chen, I can see that you two are not natives from here. Where might have you two come from?" Qin Zhao asked curiously. Jian Chen hesitated before answering. "In all honesty, we came from a distant kingdom to participate in the gathering of the mercenaries. The both of us have traveled many miles and traveled across many kingdoms. It was only today that we arrived at Walorant City to rest. Neither of us thought that such an event like this would happen." Hearing this, Qin Zhao stopped for a moment before slapping the table with a smile. this is quite the coincidence. I didn't think that Brother Jian Chen would want to go to Mercenary City for the gathering of the mercenaries. We are traveling the same way. What, could Brother Qin Shao be participating in the gathering of the mercenaries as well? Jian Chen asked surprised. Of course, the rewards from the gathering of the mercenaries are quite rich. There is not a single faction on the continent who would not be tempted by them. Our Tianqin clan is no different. This gathering of mercenaries, we are bringing a few members to join forces with me. Qin Shao said excitedly. Brother Jian Chen, you and I are friends, so you should stay in the Tianqin clan for now. 2 months from now, we can set off for Mercenary City. Hearing this, Jian Chen's eyebrows furrowed slightly. Qin Shao, there's not even half a year until the gathering of the mercenaries begins. With there being thousands of kilometers left until then, along with if we spend 2 months in Valorant City, then there won't be any time for us to get there. Qin Shao laughed. It seems that Brother Jian Chen has never heard of a space gate before. Space gate? Jian Chen was confused for a moment as he tried to think of what a space gate was. Then, his face grew joyous as he spoke. Qin Shao, could it be that your Tianqin clan has a space gate? A space gate was something that Jian Chen had seen mentioned in the libraries of the Changyang clan and Kargath Academy. Rumors had it that space gates were mysterious portals that were made of a spatial composition that were rare within the continent. Space gates were something that only Saint Kings could create, and so only the 7 capital cities had a space gate. It was rumored that a space gate was capable of allowing a person to travel thousands of kilometers after crossing to the other side. Space gates were truly one of the most profound mysteries of the world and were the only capable gateway to long-distance traveling. Jian Chen's words caused Qin Shao to laugh bitterly. Brother Jian Chen, you think too highly of our Tianqin clan. How could such a mysterious thing be controlled by our Tianqin clan? Not even our Zhuya kingdom has control of a space gate. However, one of our allied kingdoms is in control of one, thus our Tianqin clan plans on using it to get to Mercenary City. So it's like that. Jian Chen spoke with clarity. He was excited to hear about the space gate. With one of those, he would be able to reach Mercenary City without trouble. Right now, Jian Chen couldn't help but secretly rejoice about his decision coming to Valorant City. Otherwise, he would have never been able to use the space gate to assist him with his troubles. Although the records of the Tianyuan continent said that only the 7 capital cities had a space gate, that was only on the surface. Secretly, there were many more space gates hidden throughout the continent with no one being able to accurately locate them. Within the study room of the Tianqin clan. What? Xiao Er has brought an outsider to our Tianqin clan? Troublesome, how truly troublesome. Our Tianqin clan isn't some place that just anyone can enter. An expensively dressed middle-aged man spoke out angrily as he sat on his chair. The man was over 40 years old with an air of power belonging to that of an elder. His words carried about a stressed tone as his eyes flickered with a bright glow. On the other side of the middle-aged man stood a white-robed figure. Her face was covered behind a veil. It was the second miss of the Tianqin clan. Father, eldest brother's personality is rather straightforward, but this time the person he brought back with him is not a simple person. While this person is quite young, his strength is tremendous. Even eldest brother isn't a match for him and left your daughter stunned. Eldest brother even readily announced his loss and spoke of his respect for him. From the eyes of your daughter, this is the first time I've ever eldest brother in such a state. The second miss spoke with a gentle tone that could rival a skylark's. Those who heard her voice would have their hearts skip a beat. So it's like that? It would appear that I must go and see this person to understand what he is like for him to be someone that Xiao Er would respect. The middle-aged man murmured. All of his previous anger had evaporated suddenly. Within Qin Zhao's residence, Jian Chen, Ming Dong and Qin Xiao all laughed and chatted among each other as they ate and drank. With Qin Xiao's straightforward personality, their friendship couldn't help but deepen by quite a bit. "Xiao, you are usually so quiet every day. Just what has happened to cause you to become so loud?" A voice called out over the sounds of their laughter. With that, an expensively dressed middle-aged man walked into the compound with a casual stride. "Father, why have you come today?" Qin Xiao shot up from his chair in surprise. The man's eyes looked at both Ming Dong and Jian Chen for a moment before laughing. "I haven't been here for some time, so your father decided to visit you." Then looking at the two others, he said, "Xiao, why don't you introduce your two friends to your father?" "Father, let me introduce you to my companions then. This one is Jian Chen and the other is Ming Dong." Qin Xiao laughed as he pointed at the two. Standing up, both Jian Chen and Ming Dong cupped their hands to the middle-aged man. "Jian Chen, pay his respects to the patriarch." "I, Ming Dong, pay his respects to the patriarch." The middle-aged man looked at Ming Dong for a moment before then looking at Jian Chen to measure them both. With a brief look of surprise, he nodded his head with a smile. "Not bad, you seem to be quite talented men. Where might you two come from?" Without waiting for Jian Chen to say anything, Qin Xiao immediately spoke up. "Father, Jian Chen isn't from our Zhuya kingdom. They are from a faraway kingdom that traveled here so that they could participate in the gathering of the mercenaries. Coincidentally, they came across me in their trip to Walorant City." "Ah, so I see. Brother Jian Chen has come from such a long distance away. Seeing how you were able to become friends with Xiao so fast, it would appear your meeting was by fate. Qin Xiao, your father still has some matters to attend to. Treat your guests well in my absence." The man spoke in an easygoing manner as if he was a compassionate father and did not have the air of a patriarch. After that, the man had left the compound, leaving the three of them alone. Afterward, because of the matter with the space gate, Jian Chen and Ming Dong both accepted Qin Zhao's invitation to stay at the Tianqin clan. Because of the space gate, they would be able to get to Mercenary City without embarking on a long journey. That night, Jian Chen and Ming Dong stayed within a compound of their own that was relatively isolated where even the patrolmen rarely went to. Later on in the night, Jian Chen held two monster cores in his hands as he continued to cultivate on his bed. For the sake of succeeding within the gathering of the mercenaries, Jian Chen had to continue cultivating his strength. His goal was to enter the top 3 and earn a heaven-tier battle skill. Suddenly, Jian Chen's ears twitched as his eyes both flashed open. As he saw two lights flash in the night, Jian Chen brought out his light wind sword in an instant and leaped forward with his sword immediately stabbing up through the roof. Crash! With this movement, the tiles on the roof was immediately split apart. A shadowy figure fell from the roof with a whistling sound as it made contact with Jian Chen's sword. A large amount of shock was sent spiraling into Jian Chen's arm, temporarily numbing his hand and causing part of his skin to split open. Jian Chen was shocked at this man's strength. With just a single exchange, he had been dealt an injury he couldn't afford to take. At the very least, this unknown assailant's strength was at the 3rd cycle Earth Saint Master's level. Jian Chen immediately flew backward as he looked at the shadowy figure. "Who are you?" he demanded. The figure didn't say a word and instead brandished a black iron club to swing at Jian Chen. At Jian Chen's words, the light wind sword in his hand began to glow faintly with an azure and violet light. Within the dark night, this color was very noticeable. In the next moment, the light wind sword flashed silver before striking at the iron club. Ding! The two weapons collided once more, causing Jian Chen to stagger backward. This mysterious attacker of his was so strong that he was most likely at the 4th or even 5th cycle Earth Saint Master instead of the 3rd cycle. This wasn't a level that Jian Chen could afford to fight against. Despite all of this, the azure and violet sword chi had managed to cause a large gap within the assailant's iron club. The mysterious figure suddenly froze as he looked at his weapon before speaking out with a hoarse voice, "That's not possible. Horror filled his voice before instantly flying out from the roof and disappearing into the night. Jian Chen looked at the broken hole in his roof without a word as his eyes flashed brightly. Slowly, a thoughtful smile began to creep up on his face. Chapter 276, Treasure Pavilion Bang. Suddenly, a large commotion could be heard as the sound of footsteps rang out. Ming Dong came running in with his sword in hand as he asked seriously, "Jian Chen, what happened?" Rushing forward, he saw the giant hole in the ceiling with his twinkling eyes. Looking back to Jian Chen, he asked with concern, "Jian Chen, are you all right?" Waving his hand, Jian Chen said, "I'm fine. We are in the Tianqin clan's compound and had only just arrived at Walorant City with no enemies. Just who could possibly want to attack you?" Ming Dong asked curiously. Jian Chen chuckled, "This isn't the work of an enemy. Instead, this is their attempt to test me." "A test?" Ming Dong had a surprised look on his face. "Then you're saying that the people who attacked you for no reason are..." Jian Chen threw up his hand to quiet Ming Dong. "This is a matter that we come to an understanding about and say no more." Ming Dong went quiet for a moment before muttering, "No wonder the guards patrolling the area weren't alerted, so it was like that?" "Ming Dong, it's already quite late, you should return to your room." With that, Jian Chen began to tidy up the tiles that had fallen before climbing back into his bed. "If you say so, then I'll be heading back." Without another word, Ming Dong returned to his room without bothering Jian Chen any longer. As the night went on and the morning came by, Qin Shao came by to Jian Chen's room early only to see the broken remnants of the door that was caused by Ming Dong when he had kicked it open. With a stunned look, he immediately cried out, "Brother Jian Chen, are you still here?" "Qin Shao, come in." Jian Chen's calm voice from within his room. Immediately after walking into the room, Qin Shao noticed the giant hole on the ceiling of the room with a pile of broken tiles on the floor. At this sight, Qin Shao couldn't help but be shocked. Looking all around him, he asked, "Brother Jian Chen, just what exactly happened last night? Just why is it a mess in here as if there was a fight?" Jian Chen gave a casual smile as he said, "It was nothing major. A mysterious black-robed man attacked me last night, but Brother Qin Shao shouldn't concern himself with the matter." "What, someone attacked you last night?" Qin Shao spoke in shock before instantly turning furious. "Who would dare? To think someone would try to commit such a crime in my Tianqin clan? It would seem those guards should be swapped as well, they're nothing more than good-for-nothings. Brother Jian Chen, I will report this to my father, don't you worry. No matter who it was that attacked you, my Tianqin clan will definitely not let this assassin be. Humph, never has there been such a person that would dare provoke the honor of our Tianqin clan." Qin Shao cried out furiously before stomping away to his father with such anger that even Jian Chen couldn't placate him. It would seem that Qin Shao didn't know about last night's events. Seeing the retreating back of Qin Shao, Jian Chen muttered to himself from his window. Quickly, a group of people came back to where Jian Chen was. The leader of the group was Qin Shao with the patriarch of the Tianqin clan along with a few other guards. Jian Chen quickly made his way out from the room and cupped his hands to the patriarch. Jian Chen respectfully greets Patriarch Tianqin. The patriarch laughed, "Brother Jian Chen needs not to be so polite. I've heard that you've suffered an attack yesterday night, is that true?" "It is," Jian Chen replied. The patriarch's attitude became extremely serious after that answer as he looked at the door which had been kicked down by Ming Dong. Investigating the site for himself, his face grew even more embarrassed by the moment before shouting, "Just how ridiculous is this? How dare someone try to act in such a way to my Tianqin clan?" With an intense glare, he stared at one of the guards that had accompanied him. "Just what kind of captain of the guard are you? For an enemy to be so unafraid of infiltrating our clan, just what good are you?" Hearing this, the guards there began to panic before kneeling to the ground. "Please, my lord, we will do everything we can to investigate the infiltrator." Please give us this one chance to redeem ourselves. Pa, because of your years of service to our Tianqin clan despite having very little contributions, I will temporarily pardon you. Hurry up and go find out just who did this to our Tianqin clan. The patriarch commanded with a strict tone. We thank the patriarch for his kindness. We will definitely find out who the infiltrator was. The guards spoke as they received amnesty and kowtowed to show their gratitude. The patriarch turned to look at Jian Chen with his serious look fading away quickly. Brother Jian Chen, I truly wish to give my apologies. To think that you suffered an attack while being a guest at my Tianqin clan, this is truly unexpected. However, please do not worry, my Tianqin clan will pursue the one responsible and will make sure he is handed over to you for your satisfaction. The guards lined up next to him looked at each other with some confusion. In regards to Jian Chen, they only had a little information about him. They only knew that the young lord had made good friends with him, but the patriarch of the Tianqin clan had begun to treat this fragile youth far too well than they thought. Could it be that this youth has a strong clan supporting him? The guards all thought at the same time. Despite this question all weighing heavily on their minds, they didn't have the qualifications to ask. The patriarch's attitude toward Jian Chen made him feel as if he was being pampered, and so he didn't dare feel slighted by this. Cupping his hands together, Jian Chen said, Patriarch Tianqin is far too kind. Yesterday's night was nothing serious, so please do not waste too much of your efforts on this. It cannot be certain or not if it was an enemy of mine that followed me to kill me. After that, the patriarch left Jian Chen with a few parting words while commanding the patrolman to make sure that such an event wouldn't happen again. Qin Shao walked up to Jian Chen's side. With his toned physique, the comparison to Jian Chen's slim build was strikingly clear. Slapping his shoulder, Qin Shao said, Brother Jian Chen, yesterday night's events must have startled you. It's a good thing you came out unharmed, otherwise there would be no way for me to forgive myself. Laughing, Jian Chen said a few words before allowing Qin Shao to take him on a stroll through Walorant City. Walorant City was extremely large with a flourishing city center. As Qin Shao led both Jian Chen and Ming Dong throughout the city, they came across several thriving streets in the city. Then the three finally came to a stop right in front of a massive building with the words, Treasure Pavilion, written in fancy lettering. Brother Jian Chen, this is where the biggest concentration of treasures are within Walorant City. This is where the rarest of treasures can be found, let's go in and take a look. Qin Shao said to Jian Chen. Within Treasure Pavilion, many richly dressed men were walking around along with several sturdy-looking mercenaries that were all looking with an attentive gaze at the merchandise around them. Brother Jian Chen, this place has the monopoly on the most fantastic of treasures. There are even many things here I'm not aware of that may even date to the ancient past. Although they may not have any practical use, they look quite nice if collected. Thus, many people gather here to look for things for their collections, although very rarely, there are some that later buy an unknown treasure or two. Qin Shao said as he looked around at the closest merchandise to him. Suddenly, the azure and violet sword spirits within Jian Chen's dantian shook once before sending a message to Jian Chen telepathically. At that message, Jian Chen could tell that the two sword spirits were feeling excited. Jian Chen's heart skipped a beat as he looked around. Without a change in his expression, he said, Brother Qin Shao, I'm going to take a look then. Go ahead. When it's time to leave I'll call for you. Qin Shao replied. Afterward, Jian Chen and Ming Dong climbed up to the second story. The very moment they stepped foot onto the second story, Jian Chen stopped moving for a moment before continuing to climb upward. As Jian Chen approached the fourth floor, two sturdy-looking men blocked his path to the stairway. One of them looked at Jian Chen before speaking out politely, My apologies, my lord, but only those with a purple card can enter this floor. While a purple card was a way of storing and saving money, within the Tianyuan continent, a purple card also signified one's wealth. It was a symbol of status that was clearly also the requirement for entering the fourth floor to the building. With a wave of his hand, a purple card appeared. Looking at the two men, he said, "Might I be allowed to enter now?" "Of course, please enter, my lord." The two men instantly gestured for him to go past them. Jian Chen walked past the guards onto the fourth floor, but just as Ming Dong was about to follow, the two men immediately blocked the path once more. "My lord, please show us your purple card as well. If you cannot show your purple card, then in strict accordance to our rules, you may not be allowed entry onto the fourth floor." With those words, Ming Dong had a bitter look on his face before smiling to Jian Chen. "Jian Chen, you can go ahead, I'll wait down below for you." "Wait a minute." Jian Chen called out for Ming Dong to stop. With another wave of his hand, a purple card appeared in his hands. Stuffing it into Ming Dong's hands, Jian Chen turned to the two guards there and spoke stiffly, "Is he allowed entry now?" The two guards looked at each other with some hesitation before they relented. Although they both could see that the purple card in Ming Dong's hands wasn't his, but the rules of the building only stipulated that one must be in possession of a purple card in order to be allowed entry. It had never said that a purple card must belong to the person, so Ming Dong hadn't broken any rules at all. The fourth floor was rather empty in comparison to the stories below. Throughout the entire floor, there were many strange and bizarre objects on display. Ranging from many different colored stones to strange lumps of iron, there were even many antique-looking pottery vases and chinaware. In short, there were many fantastical things to be seen, some from the past and many weren't ordinary-looking things at all. However, what their uses may be, no one knew. Chapter 277, Strange Five-Colored Stone. There were a variety of mysterious things within the fourth floor of the treasure pavilion. A large slab of stone was floating a meter in the air while slowly glowing with a faint azure color. There was nothing underneath the slab to support it, so anyone that saw this slab would know that this was no ordinary thing. On another red pedestal, there was a small pile of iron sand. The iron sand was darkly colored and exuded a constant black flame. Nothing for fuel but the air around it, the fire burned constantly without ever being extinguished. Aside from that, there were a few other strange crystals that glowed brightly along with a few ancient-looking pottery vases. The fourth floor to the treasure pavilion didn't have as many people as the first floor. There were only 20 expensively dressed men that casually walked around and selected an item that caught their interest. Jian Chen began to follow the sensations he was feeling from the azure and violet sword spirits before stopping right in the middle of the room. Right in front of him on a counter were countless of shining stones. Each one was about the size of an adult hand that emanated a weak light similar to a night pearl, but these weren't night pearls, they were just strange-looking stones that had a faint amount of energy pulsating within. Following the deep sensation he was feeling, Jian Chen's eyes landed upon a thumb-sized gem. This gem was perfectly round and glimmered with many different colors. There was a strange pattern within the stone that was particularly eye-catching. Jian Chen knew that this strange five-colored stone was the reason why the sword spirits were so happy, meaning that this was not an ordinary stone. Calling over the manager of the fourth floor, Jian Chen inquired about the price. The manager of the treasure pavilion's fourth floor was a white-haired elder. Although he was quite old, both of his eyes shined brightly as if both pupils were a shining star. The manager looked at Jian Chen as if to size him up before speaking with a grand smile, "My lord has such a sharp eye to be able to spot this special gem. This type of gem is known as the multicolored stone. Although this gem is seemingly small, its price is rather expensive compared to the other gems. Its selling price is 15,000 purple coins." Jian Chen stifled his breath so that he would not be heard gasping in shock. This price was far too expensive, it was practically beyond what was believable. Noticing the change in Jian Chen's expression, the elder knew that Jian Chen had been intimidated by the price. With a smile, he said, "My lord, please do not look down upon the multicolored stone. Although I do not know what this stone is or what it is used for, but this is the absolute price. Swallowing his breath, Jian Chen tried to calm himself as he stared at the thumb-sized stone. Honored elder, could you please explain to me just what's so special about this stone? Then please allow this elder to explain it to you, my lord. The elder cleared his throat with a cough before explaining, if we are to disregard the auspicious light of the multicolored stone, it is already a stone of grace and refinement. Although it is only the size of a thumb, it is incomparably strong. Not a single item is able to leave a mark on its surface, and its weight changes in accordance to the weather itself. Truly, this is a mysterious stone. Jian Chen's heart skipped a beat as he became interested before speaking with some doubt. To be able to change weight in accordance to the weather? Honored elder, could you please explain this in detail? The manager of the fourth floor laughed. My lord, while this multicolored stone has only come to our Walorant city a few days ago, it has already been placed as merchandise for many people to see in our treasure pavilion. The stone's mysterious grace has already been noted quite clearly to us. On a day with clear skies, the multicolored stone will begin to glow 5 different colors as it is right now. When the weather is quite nasty or is raining heavily, then the stone will glow with an intensely bright luster that could light up the entire treasure pavilion. However, what must be carefully noted is that if the multicolored stone were to touch a single drop of water, then it will grow extremely heavy. Its weight will be so heavy that those without enough strength will be unable to pick it up. Oh. It has this type of mysterious change? Jian Chen asked with doubt. By this point, the other men on the fourth floor had all heard the price of the multicolored stone and began to converge at the same spot to look at it. Not a single one of my words are false. The elder nodded his head with conviction before saying, this was found out because when the multicolored stone was dipped in water to polish it, it instantly grew so heavy that the stone fell a kilometer within the ground. It was only after our treasure pavilion hired a strong expert that the stone had been excavated once more with difficulty. How fake is this, a stone that fell several hundred meters into the ground? I'm sure this is nothing more than a scam. I don't believe it at all. Just what type of person is strong enough to be able to pull out a stone from that far below? Jiansen didn't say a word as the other men around him began to voice their doubts. Whether or not you believe me is up to you, but with the reputation of Treasure Pavilion on the line, it is below us to lie about such a thing. I didn't think that this stone would be such a mysterious object. I am quite taken by it, honored elder. I would like to buy this stone. Jian Chen smiled at him. Jian Chen's actions had instantly made Ming Dong leap in shock. Grabbing at his clothes, he asked hurriedly, Jian Chen, don't be crazy. Even if this stone is as magical as they say, it isn't worth the money they are asking for. Jian Chen chuckled before stating, I have a reason for buying this stone. But, even if this stone is so magical, it's still 15,000 purple coins. This is far too expensive. Ming Dong said, with this price, he didn't feel that the stone was worth it. My lord, do you truly wish to spend 15,000 purple coins for the multicolored stone? The manager looked at Jian Chen with a surprised look. This object truly was quite mysterious and had caught the eye of many people. The very moment each one of them saw the excessively high price, they would instantaneously lose interest. So this mysterious multicolored stone had been passed over and sent to Walorant City's treasure pavilion. Jian Chen held out his purple card, honored elder, I truly wish to buy it. Seeing the purple card in Jian Chen's hand, the manager looked at Jian Chen with disbelief as if trying to see if he was joking. Swiftly a smile appeared on his face as he took the purple card. My lord is truly a positive person. This multicolored stone has been passed around within our treasure pavilion circle for dozens of years, but now it has finally found an owner. After that, the manager of the fourth floor immediately had someone bring a person from a nearby bank to come and take out 15,000 purple coins from the purple card. Then, the multicolored stone was given to Jian Chen. Jian Chen took the thumb-sized multicolored stone and looked at it closely. Although this stone was very small in his hands, he had a hard time imagining that with a drop of water, the stone would instantly become extremely heavy. In this huge world, nothing is truly too bizarre. Jian Chen sighed to himself. Suddenly, the sword spirits within his dantian pulsated once. At the same time, the multicolored stone in Jian Chen's hands felt as if it was reacting to the sword spirits as 5 different colored lights burst out from the tiny stone. The entire 4th floor of the treasure pavilion was basked within its multicolored light. With the entire area illuminated, everyone within eyesight immediately felt wide awake as if in an instant, their spirit had suddenly grew stronger. Heavens, just what is happening? What an auspicious light, this stone is truly a treasure. What a complicated and mysterious stone this is to have such an effect. If I had known about this earlier, I would have bought it first. How blind I am in order to miss such a treasure. Everyone on the 4th floor immediately began to talk to each other about the stone, causing the previously quiet area to become a noisy ground full of chatter. Everyone had been animatedly talking to each other while secretly regretting to themselves that they didn't have as sharp of an eye as Jian Chen, who had spotted this treasure. Many of the men there had already started to look at the multicolored stone in Jian Chen's hand with an avaricious look. WWH. What just happened? The elderly manager of the treasure pavilion cried out in a stupefied manner. He had already been a manager for the treasure pavilion for many years and had researched many things. However, this situation right in front of him was the very first time he had ever seen something like it. Even in the strongest of storms, the multicolored stone wouldn't release such an intense light. Furthermore, he could tell that this multicolored glow of light was not like the usual light. Could it be, the multicolored stone and this young lord were destined to cross paths? Many people have seen this stone, but were instantly scared away from the prices. However, this lord didn't even shy away from the thought of buying it. The elderly manager secretly thought to himself. Right now, he didn't have a single word that he could say about this situation. Jian Chen too had been shocked by the sudden rays of light from the multicolored stone. He reacted quickly and stored the stone within his space ring. As soon as the multicolored stone disappeared, the light that had illuminated the building instantly disappeared with it. The men who were on the 4th floor of the treasure pavilion instantly snapped to awareness as well following the disappearance of the light. When the ray of light basked over me, I felt so comfortable. My head had never felt so awake. A richly dressed man exclaimed as he walked over. That's right, I too felt that my mind has cleared up. Good heavens, this isn't a lie, my spirit has strengthened many times over. Straight away, as soon as everyone became coherent, they each discovered a new change in their body. The look of joy on their faces could hardly be contained as they cried out their findings in shock. Shit! Seeing everyone's reaction, Jian Chen's heart immediately stopped beating for a moment. Grabbing Ming Dong, the two flew toward the stairs so that they wouldn't stay in this place any longer. Halt! A middle-aged man immediately sensed that Jian Chen was about to escape. With a single shout, he bounded forward to block his path. Chapter 278, Lord Tianju. Jian Chen's expression grew dark as he looked at the middle-aged man in his path with a sharp glare. Sire, just what is the meaning of this? As if sensing the ominous look on Jian Chen's face, the man gave a bright laugh. Please don't misunderstand me, fellow brother. I am a member of the Siddhav clan. The multicolored stone you just bought is of interest to me. So as the representative of the Siddhav clan, I hope that you will sell the multicolored stone to me. By this point, the other men had been brought back to full awareness. Quickly, they all surrounded Jian Chen as they began to bother him with offers to buy the stone. Each price was higher than the last. Inwardly sighing, Jian Chen had been worried that such an event would occur. With the unique ability of the stone, many people wouldn't be able to stop themselves from trying to buy it from him with exorbitant prices. Although they had all heard about the explanation from the manager, they hadn't though there was enough truth behind it for the price to be worth purchasing. It was only when the multicolored stone had released that strange glow and they all experienced their spirits suddenly increasing that they truly wished to buy this mysterious treasure. Everyone, I am truly sorry, but I am not selling this multicolored stone. Jian Chen addressed everyone, brother, you might as well sell it to me. I am willing to buy it for 30,000 purple coins. As it is, the multicolored stone is useless for you and will lead you to countless of headaches. Don't be so stubborn. A pig-tailed elder spoke out in a way that made him feel as if he was only looking for Jian Chen's best interest. That's right, fellow brother, this multicolored stone is not safe in your hands, you would do best to sell it to me. The multicolored stone will attract too much attention for you, who knows if someone will try to kill you for it. The gains do not make up for your loss. You should sell it to my Maple clan, we are willing to buy it for 35,000 purple coins. Everyone began to bid even higher and higher. Suddenly, a loud voice called out from the back, this multicolored stone is something I desire, you all shouldn't bother fighting me for it. Hearing this, the noisy clamor instantly stopped. Everyone turned toward the back of the crowd to see just who could dare to be so arrogant. To dare say such arrogant words in a crowd like this? Everyone that was able to enter the 4th floor of Treasure Pavilion were not ordinary people of ordinary statuses by any means. Only 2 men wearing white robes could be seen walking forward before stopping right in front of Jian Chen. One of the youths was around 28 years old, around Ming Dong's age. The middle-aged man by his side stood with a firm expression on his face. Both of his eyes had a lively glow to them as he stared at the crowd with a powerful expression. So it was the young lord, Tianju. As soon as everyone saw the 28-year-old youth, their faces all changed. Many of them had even began to smile enchantingly at the youth as if they were good friends. The others had dark expressions on their faces and sighed as they realized they no longer had a chance to obtain the multicolored stone. AI, how did I come across the young Lord Tianju here? It's all over, the multicolored stone won't be mine anymore. Even if this young brother decided to give it to me, I'd have to in turn present it to the young lord. A middle-aged man spoke dejectedly. Huh, so it's Lord Tianju. I didn't think to see you here at the Treasure Pavilion today. Since the young lord has interest in this stone, then we won't disturb you any longer. Everyone began to talk once more, but before where they had been fighting each other to buy the stone, they had now all withdrawn their offers. Not a single one had a displeased look on their faces as they smiled at the young lord. Seeing how everyone was happy to see him, the youth stepped forward toward Jian Chen and spoke with a haughty tone, hand over the multicolored stone. I will recompense you for your 15,000 purple coins later. Narrowing his eyes, Jian Chen spoke out with an evenly voice, my apologies, but I've said that I will not be selling the multicolored stone. Hearing that, Tianju grew angry as he stared at Jian Chen with an intense glare. Kid, do you know who I am? Within Walorant City, I, Tianju, am able to get anything I wish for. Those words of Tianju had made even Jian Chen angry a little. Staring back at him with his own intense stare, Jian Chen leaked out some killing intent as he growled, I don't care for who you are, if I said I am not selling, then I am not selling. The threatening tone in Jian Chen's voice had caused the entire floor to become stunned with disbelief. Even Tianju himself was speechless for a moment. He had never seen such a person talk to him in such a manner before. Recollecting himself, he gave a furious smile before glaring at Jian Chen, good. Very good. Kid, you have guts to speak to me in such a manner. In fact, you are the first in Walorant City. Tianju looked to the middle-aged man at his side, Guard Cheng, take this arrogant child in. Humph, to think that he would dare talk to me like that, he must be tired of living. Yes, my lord. The man replied before charging at Jian Chen with both of his hands outstretched to grab at him. With a snort, Jian Chen brought out his light wind sword. With a swish of his right hand, the sword disappeared in a silver arc of light before stopping right next to the man's neck. The speed was so fast that no one had any idea just what Jian Chen had done in that split second. The middle-aged man came to a screeching halt as he stared in disbelief at Jian Chen. His heart began to beat wildly as sweat began to drip down his forehead in a concentrated amount. Even his face had begun to pale. He hadn't been able to detect Jian Chen's movements at all. Against his sword, he was powerless to do anything about it. It was only when he felt the light wind sword come across his neck that he had noticed that Jian Chen had struck out. If Jian Chen had truly wanted to kill him, then he wouldn't be able to do anything about it. After making a breakthrough to becoming a middle great saint master, Jian Chen had grown faster in both body and sword. With this man being at the peak great saint master level, unless Jian Chen had been lazy, there would be no way for the man to dodge it. Seeing this sight, everyone on the fourth floor had been shocked and looked at Jian Chen with both regret and sympathy. Outrageous! To even strike at my guard? You are truly asking for trouble. Tianju boomed with a furious anger. Just who's making such a racket? How annoying, even my eardrums are vibrating because of the racket. Just after Tianju had roared, another angry voice came from the direction of the stairs. Upon the new voice, everyone on the fourth floor immediately looked toward the stairs with a pitying glance as they whispered to each other. Just who said that? Is he trying to die? Whoever spoke out just now should have looked before he acted. Right now, just a single word could offend the young Lord Tianju. The Lord Tianju is already so angry, this newcomer surely doesn't know by now, but he has offended Lord Tianju. Truly, he has chosen a bitter apple to take a bite of. As was expected, the moment Tianju heard that line, his face grew exceedingly malicious as he started toward the stairwell with some killing intent pouring out of his body. Who dares say such words? Hurry the fuck up and show your face. Now that he had been provoked for the third time, Tianju's face had grew extremely dark with anger. Right in front of everyone's eyes, a sturdy-looking man slowly walked up the stairs toward them. However, the very moment everyone saw his appearance, their faces all went slack. Each one couldn't find the words to say to each other thanks to their shock. When they had heard Tianju speak before, they were all smiling to see what would happen next, but the smiles on their faces had instantly been wiped away and were instead replaced with a look of utmost horror. Qin Shao, so it was you? Seeing the sturdy-looking youth walk up the stairs, Tianju's originally furious self had instantaneously grew fearful. The person that had walked up the stairs was the young lord of the Tianqin clan, Qin Shao. Qin Shao laughed coldly as he looked at Tianju. I was wondering why there was such a racket, so it was you all along. Tianju, you have been quite audacious these past few days to even swear at me. Did you wish to receive a thrashing then? Why you? Tianju's face turned a palish green at Qin Shao's words as he pointed at him with a trembling finger. Unfortunately, he truly feared Qin Shao enough to never swear at him willingly. He was all too familiar with Qin Shao's temperament. If he were to talk back, then Qin Shao wouldn't be afraid to beat him up in front of all these people. This one greets the Lord. This one greets Lord Qin Shao. At that moment, everyone on the fourth floor immediately began to greet Qin Shao excitedly as if he was a dear friend to them. Tianju's chest moved up and down violently as his mind raced to think of something since he couldn't talk back to Qin Shao. Suddenly, a light of realization flashed across his mind as he turned around to look at Jian Chen who was standing right next to him. With a cold sneer appearing on his face, he spoke out, Qin Shao, this clueless brat has insulted the honor of our Tianqin clan and even dared to strike against my guard. Your timing is just right. We should bring him to heel straight away. But even as he said that, Tianju chuckled to himself inwardly, Qin Shao, while you yourself are quite strong, I will be able to knock you down a peg in public. He had seen Jian Chen's strength personally, so he was trying to borrow Jian Chen's strength to offset Qin Zhao's smile. Hearing this, Qin Shao looked over to where Jian Chen was holding his sword against the neck of the guard. At this, Qin Shao didn't even need to know what was happening. Instantly, his face turned red with anger as his fist quickly smashed against Tianju's chest with a resounding thunderous clap, causing him to stagger back a few steps before falling to the ground. "Fucker, Tianju, you do want to be beaten up to even provoke my brother." Qin Shao roared in anger as he swore in front of everyone else. Chapter 279. The trouble brought by the five-colored stone. Tianju wasn't fast enough to respond to Qin Shao's angry fist, so all he could do was to stare speechlessly at Jian Chen and Qin Shao. Opening and closing his mouth several times, he cried out in confusion, "Qin Shao, what are you saying? He is your brother." Right now, if Tianju had wanted to die, then he would have the solution right in front of him. Originally, he had wanted to use Jian Chen in order to make Qin Shao lose some face by pitting them against each other. What he didn't think was that with this sudden development, not only had he insulted the sworn brother of Qin Shao, but he had also lost his chance of Jian Chen teaching Qin Shao a lesson. Furthermore, he had even lost the ability to use the might of his clan to threaten Jian Chen, because if Qin Shao were to pick a side, he would stand by Jian Chen. If that were to happen, then Tianju would have no other chance. Qin Shao strode toward Tianju and landed another strike onto his chest. The fist contained such a strong amount of power that it forced Tianju to fly back another few steps. If it were not for his own strength, then he would have been forced to fly farther away and fall to the floor on his back. After another two relentless strikes on his body, Tianju couldn't take it anymore and shot a glare full of furious anger. "Qin Shao, don't be too excessive." "Excessive? You're the excessive one. Tianju, you brat, after trying to bully my sworn brother, how dare you say I am the excessive one?" "Humph, the sworn brother of mine cannot be so easily bullied." Qin Shao roared with anger. Not even giving Tianju any face, he continued to dominate Tianju. Everyone on the fourth floor all stood far away as they looked at the scene with an interested expression. Not a single one of them had a surprised expression on their faces as if they had expected this outcome. "Qin Shao, you speak nonsense, just how did I bully your sworn brother?" Tianju spoke out loud with an indignant expression as if he was being treated unfairly. He did, however, try to use his clan's might to threaten Jian Chen and force the multicolored stone from him. Unfortunately, not only was Jian Chen not afraid of him, but he had even struck out at his guard, causing Tianju to feel quite vexed now that he had run out of options. "Tianju, don't even try to speak. Don't think that I don't know just what type of person you are exactly. You have bullied so many people in Walorant City long enough. Even if I didn't know, then today would have been the day. To think you would have the audacity to try and bully my brother, you really are trying to eat the heart of a lion and the guts of the leopard. Tianju, you brat, today is the day I will have Elder Tian teach you a good lesson." Tianju roared before slamming both fists into Tianju once more. Tianju was much weaker than Qin Shao, so he was completely powerless to act against him. Qin Shao's fists landed on Tianju squarely with a loud sound. However, while the fists seemed to hurt, they were not all that serious, since even Qin Shao didn't dare hurt Tianju too much. "Qin Shao, just you wait, when we get back my father will definitely hear of this. You will be punished." Tianju tried to dodge Qin Shao's fists while crying out at him. "Humph, I've lost count of how many times you've said this." Qin Shao laughed with disdain. Even Jian Chen was looking at this event right in front of him with a stunned look. He hadn't thought that the arrogant Tianju that was trying to force him to sell the multicolored stone earlier would be soundly beaten to such a degree. All of his arrogant bravado had been instantly blown away. Right now, Jian Chen could guess that Tianju and Qin Shao were both from the same Tianqin clan. Qin Shao was from the Qin family, and Tianju was from the Tian family. Slowly absorbing his light wind sword, Jian Chen watched Qin Shao chase after Tian Ju with a small bitter smile. The Tian Ju of right now was a completely different person. "Brother Qin Shao, let's just forget about this matter." Jian Chen spoke out to Qin Shao. Qin Shao stopped chasing Tian Ju for a moment and dusted his hands. "Since it seems that my brother here wishes to forgive you, Tian Ju, let's see if you will try to bully him again. If so, Qin Shao, won't let it go next time." Tian Ju looked at Qin Shao with some fear lingering in his eyes. He didn't dare be angry and speak to him since he was a man that bullied the weak and feared the strong. Qin Shao's strength and position within the clan was far beyond his own. Practically everyone in the clan cared for him as if he was a beloved pearl. This type of care was far better than what a mediocre person at cultivation like he could get. Shortly afterward, Tian Ju shot a glare at Jian Chen with a dark look. Today's events and humiliations he had received were placed solely on Jian Chen. Walking up to Jian Chen, Qin Shao looked to see if any harm had befallen Jian Chen before slapping him on the shoulder. "Brother Jian Chen, are you alright?" I'm fine." "It's a good thing Brother Qin Shao was able to come so fast, otherwise, I fear of the consequences." Jian Chen laughed. With that, he looked toward the two men that were guarding the stairway. Those two men were still standing expressionlessly right over at the stairs with a cold stare, but seeing how Jian Chen was somehow good friends with Qin Shao, they could only hesitate for a moment before slinking away without a word. After this experience in the treasure pavilion, Jian Chen, Ming Dong and Qin Shao walked out of the building to return back to the Tianqin clan. Within the Tianqin clan's compound, Jian Chen and Ming Dong were both led to another nice-looking residential area. This time Qin Shao's compound was even closer to them than before. When Jian Chen entered his own room, he closed the doors and the windows so that all of the light in the room grew dim. Sitting on his bed, Jian Chen took out the multicolored stone that he had bought while at the treasure pavilion from his space belt. The moment the multicolored stone appeared in his hand, the sword spirits within his dantian began to shake once more, sending a happy feeling telepathically to Jian Chen's mind. At the same time, the multicolored stone began to emit a rich light that filled the room. Immediately, the dusky room was basked in a multicolored light that penetrated through the cracks in the wall and escaped outward. Jian Chen himself was basked in the glow that was a variety of colors from the stone. The patrolmen that were guarding the area nearby could only see the sudden spectrum of light that shot out from Jian Chen's room. With a surprised cry, the captain of the guards immediately ordered, "Quick, go and inform the patriarch," sending a guard away to quickly make the report. Within the room, Jian Chen continued to bathe in the light. His spirit was feeling extremely happy now and he could feel it expanding to an even larger amount more than ever before. Furthermore, what had truly shocked him even more was that a mental image began to appear clearly in his mind. This sight that appeared in his mind was somehow the entire outside area around his room. It appeared like a wall scroll within his mind and Jian Chen could somehow see a single speck that was an ant crawl on the ground. Just what is happening? How powerful and mysterious is this multicolored stone? Jian Chen cried out in shock. Suddenly, the sword spirits within his dantian shook once more as an azure and violet glow of light appeared outside of his body. In a flash, they enveloped the multicolored stone before disappearing back into his body so that both the light of the multicolored stone and the azure and violet glow disappeared. With the disappearance of the multicolored stone, the light from the stone disappeared from the world as well before entering into the world inside Jian Chen's mind through a mysterious manner. Even the image of the outside world he was seeing had disappeared. When Jian Chen saw the empty spot on his palm, his face immediately went blank as he cried out, "Where's the stone?" Right now was the exact moment that Jian Chen had realized the multicolored stone was nowhere to be found. Jian Chen began to feel worry in his heart. The multicolored stone was a rare treasure which could increase one's spirit. If it were to disappear without a trace, then that would be a heavy blow to him. Anyone that were to just receive such a rare treasure, one that could be used to improve themselves, would surely not be able to take it if it were to disappear without a trace. A flash of light went off in his mind as he realized something and sighed in relief. The multicolored stone didn't disappear without a trace, it had just been brought into his dantian and was being enveloped by the sword spirits. Dong dong dong. Suddenly, the door to his room began to shake, causing Jian Chen to immediately grow serious. He knew that the light from the multicolored stone had been discovered. Bang! A large sound rang out. Seeing that Jian Chen wasn't going to open the door, the men outside kicked it down and began to pile in, filling up the room. Among this group was a single elder with a lively look to his face. There was a long beard that grew under his chin, and behind the elder, there were several other middle-aged men that all seemed quite extraordinary. With just one look, Jian Chen could tell that the elder standing in front of him held a very high position within the clan. The elder smiled as he looked at Jian Chen. "I've heard that Qin Shao had made a good friend yesterday. Little brother, I presume that person would be you." Slowly getting off the bed, Jian Chen looked at the broken remains of the door for a moment before cupping his hands in respect. "This one is named Jian Chen, I am honored to greet the elder." With another smile, the elder looked around the room, but there was nothing of value to be seen. "Little brother, I just saw a strange spectrum of light come out from here not too long ago. What sort of treasure might be the cause of it? I am quite interested in what caused that effect. Would it be possible for this old man see?" he asked. Chapter 280, A Threat. Jian Chen's face became embarrassed. If the elder had requested it earlier, then he would have been able to take out the multicolored stone, but the multicolored stone was now within his dantian and held by the sword spirits, meaning there was no way he could take it out. Seeing the troubled look on Jian Chen's face, the elder's eyes narrowed for a moment before speaking with a slightly annoyed tone. "Little brother, you need not worry. No matter how precious the treasure is, I, Elder Wu, will not covet it. I only wish to take a look at what exactly the treasure is. Honored elder, this one is truly sorry, but I cannot take out the multicolored stone." Jian Chen forced a smile on his face. The appearance of this group was unfortunately quite untimely. They had only just arrived when the multicolored stone had entered his dantian and gave him no chance to explain. After all, this was an unfathomable event. Even if he were to tell the truth, no one would be able to believe him. "Humph, you can't take it out? Could it be that you are worried our honored elder here will try to take your lousy treasure? Elder Wu holds a decisive amount of power within our Tianqin clan. Just how could he be jealous of your treasure? Your treasure is no more than several coins. Just how would our elder Wu see this as a coveted item?" The elder didn't say a word as the men behind him began to noisily criticize Jian Chen. Jian Chen's expression darkened for a moment before cupping his hands. "Elder Wu, this one doesn't wish to hide the treasure from the honored elder, but because there has been an unexpected change, I cannot show it." Jian Chen spoke evenly with just the tiniest amount of frost lying underneath. If the other side persisted on trying to press him, then he wouldn't give them face. "Don't be saying your empty words here, just hurry up and bring out the item for our elder Wu. With his status in the clan, just what would he gain from wanting your item?" A youth spoke out icily toward Jian Chen. "Get out of the way, let me through." At this moment, a roar came out from behind, causing everyone to turn. A sturdy-looking youth came running through the crowd into the room, and the moment everyone saw him, they all began to move out of the way as they cupped their hands together and said, "My lord." The person that was rushing over was Qin Shao. "Nephew Shao, just what brings you here?" Seeing the youth, Elder Wu had a smile on his face as he asked him the question with a gentle tone. Qin Shao had a considerable amount of influence within his clan, and even though Elder Wu himself had a strong amount of sway in the clan, he still didn't dare to be too excessive with him. Qin Shao shot a glance at Elder Wu and spoke with a stiff tone. "Elder Wu, I should be the one asking you that question. This is the home of my sworn brother, Jian Chen. Just what is a large group doing here? With that, he looked at the group behind Elder Wu and commanded angrily, everyone here should leave immediately. Each one of the men behind Elder Wu looked at each other, unsure of what to do. It was only when Elder Wu shot them a cold glare that they all stood where they were. Seeing this, Qin Shao had a furious look on his face. Just as he was about to give the command once more, a dignified-sounding voice suddenly called out from outside the house. "I want everyone out here, now." After hearing this loud and dignified voice, everyone's heart leaped into their throats. Although they didn't see who the person was, each one of them was extremely familiar with that voice to know that it belonged to the patriarch of Tianqin clan. "We greet the patriarch. We greet the patriarch." The group outside began to call out to the patriarch respectfully before obediently walking out of the room. With the words of the patriarch, not a single person would dare to remain inside the room. The white-robed patriarch had a few middle-aged men standing behind him quietly as they entered the room. "This one greets the patriarch." Elder Wu spoke respectfully. "Father, you've finally come." Elder Wu and his group of unruly men have barged into the room of Brother Jian Chen's without a purpose. If news of this were to be spread out, then just how would our Tianqin clan have the face to have any more guests? Qin Shao spoke with dissatisfaction. The patriarch looked at Elder Wu and spoke calmly, "Elder Wu, this little brother is currently the guest of our Tianqin clan. You barging into his residency is not an acceptable behavior. If the city were to hear about this, then what face will our Tianqin clan have? Hurry up and apologize to Brother Jian Chen." Elder Wu's face grew troubled as he looked at the patriarch with disbelief. He truly didn't understand, as an honored elder that he was, just why did he need to apologize to the younger generation. There was conflict in his heart. Although he did not dare to disobey the patriarch's order, he could only give an unwilling apology to Jian Chen. "Little brother, I've only heard from my guards that a bright amount of light had emanated from your room, so I came by to see what just happened." The patriarch gave a small smile to Jian Chen. His voice was rather kind, and did not carry around the arrogant voice of a leader of the clan. There was a forced smile on Jian Chen's face. What a disaster this multicolored stone had brought. Just when he had bought the stone from the treasure pavilion, he had already came across trouble. It was fortunate that Qin Shao had come at that moment, or else the situation would have grown dire. As for this time, it was fortunate that even the patriarch of the clan had came by. "Patriarch Qin, this one recently went to the treasure pavilion and bought a strange stone. The multicolored light that the guards saw came from that very stone." Jian Chen explained. "Oh? Is there such a stone like that?" The patriarch spoke with interest before looking at Jian Chen. "Little brother, I don't know what type of stone could have such a mysterious multicolored light like that. Would it be possible for me to see what the stone is?" he said with some eagerness. "Patriarch Qin, that stone has somehow entered my body, so I am unable to take it out." Jian Chen spoke with a helpless look. "What, it's inside your body?" The patriarch cried out in shock and a little disbelief. "It would seem that this stone is a supreme treasure. I've seen from records of the ancient past that say there are a few supreme treasures that are capable of being absorbed into one's body. The effects from that are quite magical." A white-haired elder exclaimed from behind the patriarch. "Supreme treasure? Elder Zhua, just how strong is a supreme treasure?" Turning toward the elder, he consulted the elder for clarification. The elder shook his head. "Patriarch, any ancient records that have information regarding supreme treasures are exceedingly rare. Even I only know bits and pieces of it." Hearing that, the patriarch had a disappointed look on his face as he looked at Jian Chen without a word. With a small sigh, he said, "Little brother, seeing how you were able to come across such a treasure, then that must be in your destiny. Remember, while you are guilt-free of any crime, others will be envious of it. I've heard that while in the treasure pavilion, many people were after your treasure. So you must be careful or else someone will try to steal it away from you. This one thanks the patriarch for his warning. Jian Chen replied respectfully. With that, the patriarch and his men all left the area without a single word more about the multicolored stone. Brother Jian Chen, with such a precious gem on you, you must take care of yourself. While no one would dare openly try to steal it from you in Walorant City, the moment you leave the city it will be a completely different matter. I cannot say for certain you will be safe from any person wishing for the treasure. Qin Shao said seriously. After that, even Qin Shao left the room. Ming Dong had came by some time before to investigate just what had happened, and after making sure that everything was all right, he too returned to his room to continue cultivating. After some men from the Tianqin clan came by to restore the broken door, Jian Chen closed the door once more and began to cultivate earnestly. Before the gathering of the mercenaries, he had to increase his strength as much as possible. In a flash, day turned to night. Late at night in the middle of the darkness, Jian Chen continued to absorb the energy from the monster cores into his body. Creak. The sound of Jian Chen's door opening could be heard. Following that quiet sound, a dark figure could be seen walking in. Slowly opening his eyes, Jian Chen looked at the dark figure calmly. For sire to visit me in the night, just what business might you have with me? Although Jian Chen was in the middle of cultivating, he was always on constant vigilance, monitoring his surroundings. So when this person entered his room, he could tell. Despite there not being a single candle light, the figure was able to walk to the table and sit down without a single problem. Then, the sound of an elderly voice could be heard. Jian Chen, I will be straight to the point with you. I wish to buy your multicolored stone, just how much will it take for you to sell it? Jian Chen laughed, so it is Elder Wu. However, you have come to be disappointed tonight, Elder Wu. I've already said in the day, the multicolored stone has already entered my body and is out of my control. Humph, don't quibble around with me, Jian Chen. Do you really think that I will believe your cock and bull story? I don't wish to mince words with you, that multicolored stone will only bring you trouble, and sooner or later, it will spell out your end. Are you going to sell it or not? Elder Wu had begun to lose his patience. Jian Chen's face grew dark at Elder Wu's words. Now that he was saying such words, Jian Chen no longer felt the need to be courteous to him. With a cold tone, it's not for sale. A small sliver of killing intent began to leak out from Elder Wu's body. Slapping the table lightly, he laughed coldly. Very well. I hope you don't come to regret this, Jian Chen. With those words, Elder Wu left the room. Chapter 281, Legend of the Saint of the Guqin, the Heavenly Enchantress. Following that, Jian Chen rarely ventured out of his room and continued to cultivate. He could rarely be seen by the other members and would only occasionally spar with Qin Shao. He was always constantly reminded of Elder Wu, who hadn't come to bother him anymore. It was almost as if he had disappeared from the Tianqin clan and was no longer seen by Jian Chen. This pattern continued for a month. With the assistance of the monster cores, Jian Chen was able to make a breakthrough to become a peak Great Saint Master. After, Jian Chen had spent another large amount of time to stabilize his newfound power and to eliminate any of the hidden dangers brought by the monster cores in his body. After all that was done, he continued to cultivate with the monster cores once more. Soon, another half-month had passed. News of the multicolored stone had already lost its interest in the Tianqin clan since everyone had already forgotten about it. Similarly, Ming Dong hadn't been idle and followed Jian Chen's lead by shutting himself in his room and earnestly cultivated his own strength with the help of a monster core. 10 days later in the morning, Jian Chen finally opened the door to his room and walked out. Looking at the nearby room of Ming Dong, Jian Chen could detect even behind the closed door a small and obscure fluctuation of energy. Ming Dong was still cultivating at this moment. Slowly taking in a deep breath of the morning air, Jian Chen muttered, "We've been here for 2 months now. Not too long from now, the Tianqin clan will surely send men to Mercenary City. Looking at Qin Zhao's residence some distance away, Jian Chen hesitated for a moment before finally deciding to walk over. The definite time for when this would happen needed to be verified by Qin Zhao. Just as Jian Chen was about to enter the isolated compound of Qin Zhao, a guard standing by the gates blocked him. "Fellow brother, is Qin Zhao currently inside?" Jian Chen cupped his hands respectfully. "The young lord went to the training grounds earlier, he is no longer inside his compound," the guard replied. Afterward, Jian Chen headed for the training grounds. After these past few weeks, Jian Chen had traveled with Qin Zhao to the training grounds multiple times, so he was familiar with the way to the area. Just as Jian Chen was crossing by a garden, the sweet melody of a guqin being played could be heard in a nearby pavilion. Almost as if the song had an enchanting ability, the moment anyone heard this melody would feel as if their heartstrings were resonating along with the guqin. He could only see a woman wearing a white-colored pao robe with her back facing Jian Chen in the pavilion. Her jade-white fingers could be seen dancing along the strings of the guqin as the sweet melodies rang throughout the area. Walking toward the pavilion, Jian Chen quickly approached the back of the white-robed woman. Her black hair hung behind her shoulders down to her back. A white veil covered her face so that Jian Chen couldn't see her appearance. The part of the woman's face that could be seen could only be described as quite heavenly, almost devastatingly beautiful. The woman playing the guqin was the second sister of the Tianqin clan. In a flash, she finished playing the ballad and turned to look at Jian Chen. "Does my lord enjoy the sound of the guqin as well?" The second sister was fairly nice-sounding, capable of being as enchanting as a skylark so that anyone who listened to her would be enchanted. If one wasn't strong enough, then they would go mad after hearing her voice. With a light smile, Jian Chen replied, "The second sister's ability with the guqin is quite amazing. Although I do not understand how the guqin works, I still found myself attracted by its song." Smiling sweetly, she spoke with a gentle voice, "I thank the Lord for his praise." Jian Chen continued to smile at her. Second sister's skill at the guqin has already reached the realm of perfection and befits the song of an immortal. This one truly admires your skill, and couldn't help feel my own heart be moved. I am quite fond of the four arts and studied them studiously when I was young, but I am still far from the realm of perfection. While the sounds of my guqin are quite beautiful, it was mostly because of the guqin itself. The second sister's delicate white finger stroked a string on the guqin as she muttered, "Although this guqin is a copy of the guqin of the demonic cry, it uses a variety of expensive-looking ingredients. Even then, the inside of this holy guqin contains the saint force of the heavenly enchantress, so the music that comes out of this instrument can move people's soul so much that it could absorb it." Saint of the guqin? Heavenly enchantress? Jian Chen asked with confusion. Second sister, just who is this heavenly enchantress of the guqin supposed to be? The second sister of the Tianqin clan looked at Jian Chen with a strange look before relief filled her face. A look of worship was on her face as she spoke. Since Lord Jian Chen came from a kingdom far away from here, it is natural to not know about the saint of the guqin, the heavenly enchantress. In this kingdom, she is a well-known figure who wields the guqin of the demonic cry to a terrifying degree that even the experts of the continent will be affected. The heavenly enchantress uses her guqin as her weapon in a way that cannot be defended against. Not many can last long under her guqin, and when she uses it, she can cause those affected by the music to become lost in an illusion. Her guqin has the ability to erase one's spirit and even the body so that they become an incorporeal being after death. The heavenly enchantress ability with the guqin has already reached the realm of utmost perfection. When she plays her guqin, then even the weather can change. Legend has it that 10 years ago, she alone was able to prevent the war between two kingdoms by playing her guqin on the battlefield. In a short moment, she had caused hundreds of thousand soldiers to fall into a deep sleep that they could only wake up from after 3 days and 3 nights. The second sister truly did worship this heavenly enchantress. The very moment she started to talk about the heavenly enchantress, her eyes began to light up with a strange light. A single ballad from the Guqin was enough cause 2 entire armies to fall asleep for 3 days and 3 nights. Just how terrifying is this heavenly enchantress? Jian Chen spoke with uncontained shock. The heavenly enchantress' ability to play the Guqin can be said to be unparalleled, and her songs fit to be called the songs of the immortals. The second sister spoke. Since she loved the 4 arts, she had long since set the heavenly enchantress as her goal. Ah, the heavenly enchantress is indeed magical. If given the chance, this one would love to be familiarized with her music. Jian Chen spoke. The heavenly enchantress is already a saint, she is not an easy-to-see person. The second sister looked at Jian Chen with a curious look. Lord Jian Chen, I've heard that you wish to join the gathering of the mercenaries? Jian Chen sat down on a nearby stool and replied, correct. I have decided to participate in the next gathering of the mercenaries. I've never seen the gathering of the mercenaries myself, but I have heard that it is quite perilous. Rumors have it that the chances of a man surviving is about 10%. Even an Earth Saint Master is not guaranteed to survive there. Lord Jian Chen must take care of himself. The second sister spoke gently. I thank the second sister for her advice. I will take care of myself. After talking with the second sister for a while, Jian Chen left the pavilion to continue toward the training grounds. The training grounds of the Tianqin clan was an elevated platform that was 200 feet long. The moment Jian Chen arrived, he could see Qin Shao just jumping off from the platform while 5 guard captains were all laying on the ground with pale faces. Taking a towel offered to him by a guard, Qin Shao wiped off his sweat before laughing at Jian Chen. Brother Jian Chen, what brings you here? Did you want to spar with me? Jian Chen smiled back at Qin Shao before replying, Brother Qin Shao, I just wished to come and ask when we will be heading for Mercenary City. Don't worry. There is no rush. Right, there is still 3 months until the gathering of the mercenaries. We will wait for until half a month before setting off. Qin Shao said. Hearing this, Jian Chen had some hesitation. Brother Qin Shao, I have to leave for a small moment of time, but I will be back by then. Jian Chen's strength had already reached the peak Great Saint Master realm, and the gathering of the mercenaries will surely have plenty of talented geniuses at the Earth Saint Master level. So before the gathering of the mercenaries, Jian Chen wanted to cultivate until he could make the breakthrough to become an Earth Saint Master. This way, the gathering of the mercenaries would be an even easier event to win. Qin Shao didn't ask what Jian Chen was up to, instead, he had only warned Jian Chen not to miss the date. Thus, Jian Chen left the Tianqin clan by himself on a magical beast out of Walorant City. Jian Chen has left the clan compound possibly to head to a faraway place. Go and report that to Elder Wu. A guard standing by the gate spoke to the other as they watched Jian Chen leave the compound. Within a separated courtyard, Elder Wu and another man around the same age as him sat together at the same table. Elder Wu, your loyal servant has some news to report. Suddenly, a guard ran into the courtyard straight toward Elder Wu. Hearing this, the elder's eyes narrowed as he looked at the guard with an annoyed look. Don't you know that it is prohibited to disturb me as I play chess with another? The elder spoke with anger. Elder Wu, this was a command that you personally instructed for us to do of the highest priority. No matter what time, you said for us to report it straight away. The guard spoke. At this, the elder's heart skipped a beat as he called out to the guard, you may come in, allowing the guard to enter into the inner courtyard. Old man Wu, just what could be so important? Could it not wait for our chess game to be finished? The elder by Elder Wu's side asked. Elder He, I have some pressing matters to attend to, the chess game will have to wait. Elder Wu spoke without turning to look as he followed the guard out. As he exited the courtyard, Elder Wu turned to look at the guard. Without even needing to be asked, the guard immediately replied, Elder Wu, Jian Chen just left the compounds headed toward the outside city area. Elder Wu's eyes began to shine. What direction is he headed in? The eastern city gates. Chapter 282, Attacking an Earth Saint. Master Jian Chen rode his Class 3 magical beast out of Walorant City and off into the direction of the sun to the east. He had long since seen the neighboring area from within Walorant City. So 100 kilometers away, Jian Chen's goal was the little mountain range there. Jian Chen had already read up everything he needed to know from both the Changyang Manor and Kargath Academy about the process of becoming an Earth Saint Master, so the rules behind the process had already been memorized by him. Although only 10% of people were able to make the breakthrough to become Earth Saint Masters, Jian Chen was confident in himself. He was confident that the threshold barrier that prevented most people would not work against him. If the very first obstacle on the road of cultivation were to scare him away from trying to become an Earth Saint Master, then how would he be able to make it past the harder bottlenecks in the future? Walking through the plains near Walorant City, Jian Chen arrived at a small forest. His Class 3 magical beast mount continued to trot deep into the forest with a whistling sound and a pace that many people would find hard to keep track of. Just as Jian Chen entered the forest, a strong amount of sword qi suddenly flew through the dense foliage and shot toward Jian Chen. Immediately flying off his mount, Jian Chen dodged to the side. A wretched sound could be heard as the Class 3 magical beast mount was split in two. A river of blood flew through the air and stained the surrounding grass with it. A strong amount of saint force gathered within Jian Chen's right hand, quickly forming the silver blade of the light wind sword. Emitting some sword qi of his own, he sent it flying back in the direction from the attack. The foliage in that area shook as the sword qi disappeared inside. A gray-robed man came walking out from the bushes before an earth-shattering amount of pressure suddenly descended upon Jian Chen. In the next moment, the sword in the man's hand suddenly came flying down toward Jian Chen. An Earth Saint Master. Jian Chen thought to himself before turning serious. Without hesitation, an azure and violet glow began to fill up his light wind sword before he stabbed outward with it. Ding! The two saint weapons made contact in midair with sparks flying everywhere. Because of the azure and violet sword qi, the light IND sword was able to cause a nick to appear on the other man's sword. With a muffled shout, the gray-robed man flew backward. Since his saint weapon had been damaged, he had received a portion of the damage too. Even Jian Chen stumbled back a few steps. Right now his strength was at the peak Great Saint Master realm. While this was a big improvement compared to before, he was still weaker than an Earth Saint Master. Tilting his head up, Jian Chen saw the appearance of the gray-robed elder. With a cold glare, he spoke, "Elder Wu, so it's you." The one who had suddenly attacked him was Elder Wu from the Tianqin clan. Elder Wu was looking at the damage done on his saint weapon with a look of utter disbelief and shock. "How is this possible, just with your strength? How did you manage to damage my saint weapon?" Elder Wu was flabbergasted. His eyes continued to look at both Jian Chen and his damaged sword. Jian Chen laughed when he saw the shock on the elder's face. "Elder Wu, it seems that you are not willing to forget about the multicolored stone." Upon hearing the stone's name, the elder's face suddenly regained a clear expression and replaced the shocked look he had. "Correct, the multicolored stone is a supreme treasure with a terrifying amount of power, it seems. The sole reason you could damage my saint weapon as to be the work of the multicolored stone." With that reasoning, the elder's face grew calm once more as he stared darkly at Jian Chen. "Jian Chen, I am giving you two paths to choose from. The first path, I will pardon your life if you give me the multicolored stone. The second path, I will kill you and take the stone from your dead corpse. Choose wisely now." Jian Chen laughed coldly. He didn't feel inclined at all to answer the elder's options. Taunting Elder Wu, Jian Chen asked his own question, "Elder Wu, do you really think you can beat me?" With a snort, the elder responded, "Jian Chen, don't even try to think that with a supreme treasure you will be able to defeat an Earth Saint Master like me. Earth Saint Masters and Great Saint Masters have a difference between them as wide as the heavens themselves. There is no way for the supreme treasure to make up for that. However, even as he spoke, there was a hint of fear in the deepest parts of the elder's eyes. What? Jian Chen sneered, then today I'll show you how an Earth Saint Master can be killed by a Great Saint Master. This barrier dividing the two realms will broken by me. With that, Jian Chen immediately charged at Elder Wu. Humph, how arrogant. I doubt that as a third cycle Earth Saint Master, I will not be able to tame you. Elder Wu gave an explosive shout before the saint force within his saint weapon exploded with power and flew toward Jian Chen. Because of the azure and violet sword Qi, Jian Chen's sword had already been strengthened several times over, so Jian Chen did not fear Elder Wu's sword. The elder knew that Jian Chen's saint weapon was quite dangerous, so he tried to avoid a clash of blades. His giant sword had then suddenly diverted paths and avoided hitting Jian Chen's light wind sword before stabbing toward his chest. With a snort, Jian Chen maneuvered his sword so that it suddenly changed directions as if it were a viper. In mid-air, the sword diverted paths and chased after Elder Wu's sword. Jian Chen knew all too clearly that an Earth Saint Master was not that easy to kill. Even if Elder Wu were to dodge his sword, then the light wind sword would strike against his saint weapon. In that case, then it would bring a catastrophic amount of damage. Jian Chen's sword was fast enough that Elder Wu wasn't able to dodge it, so in the end, the tip of the light wind sword managed to strike against the broad side of the elder's saint weapon. Ding! With a metallic clank, the light wind sword instantly pierced through the broadsword. With this damage to both the elder's saint weapon and his health, the elder's face instantly went pale as he spat out a mouthful of blood. Immediately pulling back, Elder Wu flashed away from Jian Chen as he looked at Jian Chen with dread. I didn't think that a supreme treasure would be so powerful for a barely great saint master to be able to bring about such a threat to an Earth Saint Master. Although his injuries were quite severe, the elder didn't have any thoughts about retreating. In his heart, he still believed that he had enough strength to steal away the supreme treasure from Jian Chen's hands. Jian Chen's figure disappeared in a blur and left behind only a small trace of himself as he flew towards Elder Wu at breakneck speeds. Growing even more serious than before, he didn't even have enough time to wipe the blood from his own face as he stood his ground against Jian Chen. After suffering from Jian Chen's hand twice now, Elder Wu was afraid of his sword and the consequences it would bring. Just a single stroke of the sword was enough for him to feel panicked, so this fight was starting to rethink all of his possible choices. Jian Chen had no hesitation. His light wind sword became a hazy glow of light as it stabbed at Elder Wu. Multiple apparitions of the light wind sword could be seen stabbing at Elder Wu, but he was an expert of defense because of his Earth Saint Force. The Saint Force inside of his body had already formed an armor of unbelievable strength. In front of the azure and violet sword Qi, this defensive armor made of Saint Force was nothing more than a piece of decoration and would do nothing to help with Elder Wu's defenses. At this moment, Elder Wu wouldn't be able to move fast enough to dodge, so Jian Chen's sword slashed onto his shoulder. Another second passed, the sword immediately moved deeper into his chest area. Ah! Feeling the deep pain within his chest, Elder Wu gave a miserable cry. Capitalizing on this opportunity, Jian Chen immediately slashed at the elder's neck with his sword. A single human head flew through the air as blood came spilling out. Elder Wu had been killed by Jian Chen with regret still filling his eyes. He would never believe that he would be killed. He was an Earth Saint Master at the third cycle and Jian Chen was only a great Saint Master. With this, Jian Chen exhaled slowly. Elder Wu had been an Earth Saint Master of the third cycle, so the fight had been hard despite the quickness of the battle. His strength was far stronger than the patriarch of the Xia clan. Walking up to the headless corpse of Elder Wu, Jian Chen knelt down to take his space ring. With some hesitation, he finally decided to bury the body of the elder. Walorant City was close to the forest, so if the elder's body were to be discovered, then the Tianqin clan would come and investigate. By this point, it would become a huge headache for Jian Chen. Once Elder Wu's body was properly buried, Jian Chen tidied up the battlefield and hid all of the damage that his fight had caused before finally leaving the area. 4 hours later, Jian Chen arrived at the mountain range. Finally sitting down on a huge rock, he began to calm his heart for a moment. Then, taking out 2 more Class 4 monster cores, Jian Chen began to cultivate. This mountain range didn't have a single magical beast in sight. Even the wild animals were rare to see along with any humans. Thus, Jian Chen could cultivate in peace. The energy within the monster cores began to flow into Jian Chen's body as he tried to filter out the berserk element within them. Almost as if by some magical force, the energy began to assimilate into his body and then flowed into the azure and violet sword spirits. As the energy continuously flowed into Jian Chen's dantian for his light wind sword to absorb, the sword began to glow with a stronger light with each passing second. The procedure to making the breakthrough from a great Saint Master to an Earth Saint Master had already been documented and memorized by Jian Chen, so he could allow this part of the cultivation to proceed with ease. Making a breakthrough from a great Saint Master to an Earth Saint Master was a transformation of quality. A monumental amount of energy was required so that the Saint weapon would absorb far too much energy than it could contain. Then, the Saint weapon would explode into multiple fragments that would stay within one's body temporarily. Before the fragments disappeared, a large amount of energy would be needed to refine the fragments once more. The fragments would be reinforced and changed. In the end, they would be combined together once more. The Saint weapon would be condensed into a new version, thus transforming the Saint weapon as a whole. Chapter 283, Increase in Strength. While transforming the Saint weapon looked to be a simple task, in actuality this process was one of extreme difficulty. If one's control was insufficient, then the Saint weapon fragments would disappear from one's body and turn them into a cripple. In some serious cases, when the Saint weapon exploded, the amount of energy would be enough for the cultivator to find himself waking up by the Yellow River with no life to return to. This process seemed to be quite easy in terms on paper, but this obstruction had caused many cultivators to be forced to stop before they could make the breakthrough. At the same time, it had also caused many cultivators to lose their lives. As a result, the success rate of a great Saint Master making the breakthrough to become an Earth Saint Master was 10%. Each and every single one of those who made the breakthrough were cultivation geniuses who were well known to many. Jian Chen continued to absorb the energy from within the monster cores at a steady rate. Then at last, the Saint weapon within his dantian had finally reached a point where it was shaking unstably. The energy pulsating out from his Saint weapon was so strong that Jian Chen had found it quite hard to control, as if an enormous elephant was trying to pull away from him. A day went by as Jian Chen sat in front of the waterfall. 20 Class 4 monster cores had already been absorbed by him before the Saint weapon was at its utmost limit on how much energy it could absorb and was on the verge of exploding. Even Jian Chen's body was reaching its limit. Each energy surge within his body moved in such strong amounts that his entire body began to leak blood from his pores. Even the organs within his body were feeling a strong amount of pressure. The monster cores within Jian Chen's hand had all of its energy absorbed, so with that, Jian Chen took out a Class 5 monster core from his space belt. A Class 5 monster core was even stronger in terms of quality and quantity than a Class 4 monster core. The moment the energy from the Class 5 monster core entered Jian Chen's dantian, his Saint weapon couldn't handle it anymore and immediately exploded, causing countless of tiny fragments to appear within his dantian. The very moment the Saint weapon exploded, an extremely strong amount of energy exploded out from his dantian. Firmly, the energy struck against Jian Chen's organs and even his meridians as if a bomb had gone off within his body. Jian Chen stifled a groan as he spat out a mouthful of blood. Since his saint weapon had exploded, he felt an extreme amount of damage to his body as the repercussion. The amount of pain was so intense that Jian Chen's body felt numb all over. Even his head began to feel dizzy as he teetered on the verge of consciousness. It was this step that caused many men to die on their path to become an Earth Saint Master. Biting his lip, Jian Chen resisted the pain to remain awake. He could feel that the energy from when his saint weapon had fragmented entered his main bloodstream. Jian Chen's heart clenched as he threw away his hesitation. The thousands of pieces were all closely linked to his spirit, so he could feel each and every single one of them. Immediately absorbing the energy from the Class 5 monster core, Jian Chen tried to replenish the energy he had lost. Jian Chen had already made it past the threshold between life and death. What was next was the most crucial step. The saint weapon fragments would only stay within the Dantian temporarily, they would not be permanent. The amount of energy that moved around the Dantian would disappear at an alarming rate, and if all of the energy were to leave, then the cultivator would become a cripple. The pure energy from the Class 5 monster core flowed into his Dantian. Once immediately inside, the energy would fill up every single fragment of his saint weapon. Thanks to that energy, not only would the energy within each fragment be replenished, but there was even a surplus of energy that would begin to try and refine the fragments once more. Consequently, the fragments would grow stronger as the quality of the fragment increased. This step of the process required a monumental amount of energy, and so the extremely strong amount of energy from the Class 5 monster core entered Jian Chen's body via his pores and began to gather within his Dantian. In half a day, the Class 5 monster core had all of its energy completely absorbed. Quickly, Jian Chen grabbed another 2 Class 5 monster cores from his space belt. Inside his Dantian, the saint weapon fragments continued to twinkle with a faint light, almost as if they were each a tiny star. The amount of energy they absorbed made them resemble more of a black hole instead, as they showed no signs of stopping. However, the light grew stronger with each passing second. The hardships and troubles of making the breakthrough to become an Earth Saint Master were in a far different realm of difficulty than his previous breakthroughs. He had to meticulously control every single step of the way without mistake, or all of his efforts would be for nothing. Another 3 days went by, resulting in Jian Chen fully consuming the energy within a dozen Class 5 monster cores. Right now each one of the fragments accumulated an enormous sum of energy so that each fragment was absolutely saturated. By now, they had the ability to transform to become like shining gems, making Jian Chen's Dantian seem as if it was an ocean of shining stars. With a single thought, Jian Chen's spirit transformed into thousands of pieces as he began to reforge the fragments of his saint weapon. At the same time, the 2 Class 5 monster cores within his hands continued to supply his Dantian with a stream of energy. His Dantian was like the cauldron and the energy was the fire that allowed for the fragments to be refined and smelted. Gotcha! On Jian Chen's face, a crack could be seen forming before his entire body suddenly gained several cracks. The spread was accelerating extremely quick so that his entire body had cracks all over. In the end, his skin was almost like that of an elderly person before finally dropping away from him. On the verge of becoming an Earth Saint Master, his own body would also undergo a transformation. An Earth Saint Master was a huge qualitative leap from a great Saint Master. It would not only make the body stronger, but it would cause the body's skin to be cast away and form anew. The old skin fell away to reveal Jian Chen's new skin. The new skin was unblemished like an infant's, and there was a strange glow of light flowing around it. 6 hours later, Jian Chen's bodily transformation was complete. His saint force had been completely reforged so that the light wind sword once more floated within Jian Chen's Dantian as if it had never been broken in the first place. However, the amount of energy it contained was several times stronger than before, a dozen times at the very least. This wasn't a small increase in strength, but rather a huge jump in quality. If the amount of energy within the light wind sword before was like a vat of water, then the amount of energy now was like an endless ocean. If the energy before was like a small fire that could burn only paper, then the energy now was a raging inferno that could melt even steel. The two could simply not be compared to each other in a relatable degree. Jian Chen didn't stop there. The energy continued to splash into his body and enter his bloodstream, organs, meridians, tissue, and even into his dantian once more. The previous step where the body transformation was for the breakthrough to become an Earth Saint Master. Right now this system of refining his entire body was in according to the Azulite Sword Law's record of bodily refinement method to increase his strength. By now Jian Chen's Saint Force was several times stronger than before. It could be said for certain that the moment his body finished being tempered, then he would go through another leap in strength. Chapter 284. The return. Now at least a dozen times stronger than before, Jian Chen's Saint Force continued to wash over his skin before assimilating into each part of his body. Jian Chen had completely finished refining his body, but not a single spot of his body had changed physically. If he were to exercise to strengthen his body, then his body would be deformed into a shape he did not want. He would become sturdier and that would completely squash Jian Chen's preferred build. This type of development was not suitable for what Jian Chen needed. Not a single swordsman should have a stocky build. A sword user must remain thin and slender. This way, it would be more beneficial for the swordsman to be able to swing in any position with the least amount of power or movement. The way the Azulite Sword Laws had recorded the record of bodily refinement would best suit a sword user that fights in the same manner as a fencer. This method not only strengthened the body without changing the shape of it, but it would continue to strengthen the body. As long as the energy is supplied to the inner body, then the entire body would be strengthened as a whole. A layer of energy continued to flow over Jian Chen's body with a sparkling light. After that transformation, the pure energy harmonized with Jian Chen's body, improving his flesh and blood immensely. The energy from the Class 5 Monster Core would be used in place of his own energy. Strengthening his body required a tremendous amount of energy. Since Jian Chen had the Monster Cores, he didn't need to worry at all about using too much energy. The awkward event that had occurred back in the Changyang mansion would not happen again. The process of tempering and refining his body required a longer amount of time. After 7 days, Jian Chen had absorbed another 24 Class 5 Monster Cores before finally finishing. By now, he was at the utmost limit. If he wanted to increase his body any more, then he would have to use his Saint Force to transform it. On top of the giant stone, Jian Chen slowly opened his eyes from his meditative state as he finally returned to the land of reality. His ears trembled as the sounds of the roar of a wild beast could be heard from some distance away. Feeling the extreme change in quality in his Saint Force, Jian Chen couldn't help but have an extremely happy smile on his face. As of today, he had finally made the breakthrough to become an Earth Saint Master, earning his spot as one of the strongest experts on the continent. Right now my body is far stronger than before. At this point, I wager that it is at least a dozen times stronger. At this rate, even a saint couldn't hope to damage me with his saint weapon. Jian Chen muttered as he poked at his own body. A look of joy covered his face as he figured out the results. Extending his hand, a large concentration of Saint Force began to flow toward Jian Chen's arm before quickly forming the Light Wind Sword. When the Light Wind Sword appeared in Jian Chen's hands, it released an intense light that seemed even sharper than before. The Light Wind Sword of now did not differ in shape or size. The sword had undergone no physical change other than the increased glow to it. It was almost as if it reflected light as clearly as a mirror could illuminate the area around it. Suddenly, with a single shake of Jian Chen's hand, the Light Wind Sword began to shake intensely. With a large sound of a sword moving through the air, a bright silver light came out from the Light Wind Sword and instantly cut all of the surrounding pieces of grass that made contact with it into powder. An intense glare appeared in Jian Chen's eye at that moment as his figure suddenly disappeared into thin air. His body became hard to detect as an ear-piercing shriek could be heard. The light wind sword multiplied into a series of mirror images as it filled the air before stabbing outward in every single direction. His unbelievably fast speed was enough for a large gust of wind to blow into the field. Gradually, the wind picked up in speed before causing some of the loose grass and leaves to fly into the air and swirl around Jian Chen. The light wind sword continued to ring with a screeching sound as the various mirror images of the blade continued to stab at the countless floating leaves. This fast movement continued on for some time before Jian Chen came to a screeching halt. Instantly, the wind that had been created due to his speed began to die down. Because of that, the leaves all lost their upward momentum and began to descend back down to the ground slowly. If one were to look closely, each and every single one of the leaves would have the character sword etched into it. Each character was of varying sizes, but each one of them had been etched with an exquisite handwriting. Not a single one was sloppily done, and each leaf did not have any extraneous damage. After making the breakthrough to becoming an Earth Saint Master, Jian Chen's sword speed had increased once more. When he was still a Great Saint Master, his sword was fast enough to pressure both Great Saint Masters and even Earth Saint Masters without much trouble. With the Azure and Violet Sword Qi, he was able to defend himself against Earth Saint Masters. Following his rise to become an Earth Saint Master, not a single Earth Saint Master would be able to hold themselves against him if Jian Chen were to use his Azure and Violet Sword Qi now. Looking at the fluttering tree leaves around him, Jian Chen had a look of pure joy on his face. After reabsorbing the light wind sword, he took off his clothes and leaped into the comfortable pool of water right next to him. After bathing himself, he took out a new pair of clothes and dressed up before immediately leaving the place. Half a day later, Jian Chen returned to Walorant City to where the Tianqin clan was. Walking through the clan compound gates, he saw Qin Shao and Ming Dong rush toward him. Both of them had already received prior notice of his return. "Brother Jian Chen, you've finally returned. After leaving for a dozen days or so, I was starting to worry. I was even beginning to fear that you wouldn't return in time to go to the gathering of the mercenaries." Qin Shao laughed as he approached Jian Chen. "Jian Chen, how come you didn't tell me before you left? You just left me here all alone." Ming Dong glared at Jian Chen with a grumble as he complained to him. Jian Chen looked at Ming Dong for a moment before giving a small smile. "Ming Dong, you are quite talented. In such a short amount of time, you've already reached the Great Saint Master realm. I had anticipated that you would take a longer amount of time, but you've managed to beat my expectations. With the support of your monster cores combined with my free time, I was able to spend the entire time cultivating. Of course my cultivation would progress faster than normal." Ming Dong spoke with a proud look on his face. Chapter 285, The Departure. Suddenly, Qin Shao let out a surprised whistle as he began to look at Jian Chen with a strange look. Walking around him, Qin Shao inspected Jian Chen for a moment before saying, "Brother Jian Chen, you left the compound for only a dozen days or so why is it I feel that you are completely different than before?" At this, Ming Dong nodded his head in agreement, and here I thought I was the only one, so even Brother Qin Shao could feel that Jian Chen is quite different. Hearing the two men talk, Jian Chen's heart skipped a beat. If it were just Qin Shao who said this, then Jian Chen could have played it off as some sort of joke, but even Ming Dong unexpectedly detected a change. The situation was now a bit more serious. Could it be that after making a breakthrough to becoming an Earth Saint Master, even these two are able to sense it? Jian Chen thought to himself. Just then, Qin Shao gave a knowing smile as if he realized something. "Brother Jian Chen," he whispered. "In this short amount of time, could you have gone off somewhere to spend the time with some young girl? I've heard that a few men have undergone a great noticeable change after experiencing this." Qin Shao laughed as he smiled coyly. With a dumbfounded look, Jian Chen glared at Qin Shao with a dirty look. Qin Shao, don't say such nonsense. Continuing to laugh, Qin Shao had a crooked smile on his face. Brother Jian Chen, you seem quite uncomfortable, could I have struck the truth head-on? Jian Chen was left speechless. While Qin Shao was quite honest and tall, Jian Chen didn't think that he would be such a master with women. Ming Dong looked at Jian Chen with a serious look. Jian Chen, I really do sense that something is quite different with you. Laughing, Jian Chen said, then say it, just where am I different? Looking closely at Jian Chen, Ming Dong began to circle around him like Qin Shao had done before, at last shaking his head. I don't know. With a smile, Jian Chen said, that's settled then. On an unrelated note, Brother Qin Shao, has the date for when we set off for Mercenary City been decided? With this change in topic, Qin Shao straightened himself up. The date has been decided. After 3 days, our Tianqin clan and several other strong sects within the Zhuya Kingdom will travel to the other kingdom Zhuya Kingdom is allied with to use their space gate. Oh. The amount of people participating in the gathering of the mercenaries is quite a lot. Jian Chen muttered. Although there is going to be 100 people at the least going, only a few dozen of them are actually going to be participating. The rest of them are just bodyguards just in case something goes wrong during the gathering of the mercenaries. Qin Shao said. After the date had been discussed, Jian Chen and Qin Shao separated from each other. Leading Ming Dong back, Jian Chen returned to his own room. Closing the door, Ming Dong grabbed a chair to sit in before looking at Jian Chen with concern. Jian Chen, it won't be long until the gathering of the mercenaries starts. It will be extremely dangerous there, and even Earth Saint Masters don't have a good chance to survive there. Do you realize this? With a faint smile, Jian Chen replied, Ming Dong, don't worry. If I plan on going, then I naturally understand the risks. Even if I don't make it within the top ranks, protecting my own life won't be much of a problem. Jian Chen was filled with confidence in himself. In the past, his strength as a great Saint Master was enough to be a threat against Earth Saint Masters. Now that he had passed the bottleneck, combined with the assistance of the Azure and Violet Sword spirits that could destroy Saint weapons, Earth Saint Masters were no longer a concern for him. Very well then, I wish you all the best. The gathering of the mercenaries isn't a place I should participate in. Although my strength has reached the great Saint Master realm, will be a long time until I am able to qualify for such an event. At the very least, I'll accompany you to Mercenary City. Ming Dong knew that as a great Saint Master, he was not strong enough to participate. If he did, then he would only be sending himself to his death. After that, Ming Dong left Jian Chen's room, leaving him all alone to sit on his bed and focus on strengthening himself once more. Suddenly, a knock on the door could be heard as a white-robed middle-aged man slowly walked into Jian Chen's room. It was the patriarch of the Tianqin clan. The moment Jian Chen saw the patriarch, he immediately stood up from his bed and cupped his hands in salute. I greet the patriarch. The patriarch had a small smile on his face as he walked in. Before his eyes looked at Jian Chen for a moment with a sudden stiffness. His eyes held a hint of shock as he couldn't help but speak out with a startled voice. It is no wonder Xiao Er admires you so much. Not only is brother Jian Chen quite strong, but a genius at cultivation as well. Brother Jian Chen can't be any older than 25, yet you've already made the breakthrough in such a short amount of time to become an Earth Saint Master. How terrifying. Jian Chen's face didn't have any shock on it. This discovery of the patriarch was to be expected. After making the breakthrough, his entire body had underwent a transformation that allowed Ming Dong and Qin Shao, who were both familiar with him, to be able to detect a change. The extremely experienced patriarch would be able to spot it right away. Patriarch Qin is too kind. This one came across some luck, and thus was able to succeed. Jian Chen bowed. Brother Jian Chen, since you've only just made the breakthrough, there is a unique presence surrounding your body after the transformation. As long as one is quite sharp-sighted, they will be able to see it. This is not a good benefit for you during the gathering of the mercenaries. Producing a small book in one of his hands, the patriarch said, "This is a method of hiding your presence. After you learn this method, then you will be able to hide your presence so that you will not seem like an Earth Saint Master. In fact, it will hide your entire strength. This will undoubtedly be a great help to you in Mercenary City. After all, every portion of strength hidden is another hidden trump card to be held." Upon seeing this book of a method on how to hide one's presence, Jian Chen's eyes gained a joyful light to them. With a word of thanks, he immediately took the book from the patriarch's hands. "Brother Jian Chen, we will be leaving in 3 days, so I'll allow you to borrow it for 3 days. After that, please return it to me." The patriarch smiled kindly without the arrogance of an honored elder. Jian Chen nodded. "In 3 days, I will definitely return the book." The patriarch walked to a nearby chair to sit in with a look of hesitation. Then, he looked at Jian Chen. "Jian Chen, I originally came here with a request, might you listen to it?" Hearing the hesitation in the patriarch's voice, Jian Chen looked at him. What matter might the patriarch have for me? As long as I have the ability to do it, then I will do my best to not shirk my duties. The patriarch became extremely serious as his eyebrows knit together in concern. "This task shouldn't be of any difficulty to you, but if by chance Xiaoer comes across some trouble in the competition, I implore Brother Jian Chen to do his best to rescue my son if need be." Hearing that, Jian Chen laughed. "Patriarch Qin doesn't have to worry. Qin Shao and I are like old friends. Even if the patriarch did not request this of me, I would still do it. Is that right? Then I am relieved. Brother Jian Chen, please try to comprehend the hidden presence method quickly then. I will not disturb you any longer." With a sigh of relief, the patriarch quickly departed from his room. 3 days quickly went by as Jian Chen was quickly woken up by Qin Shao early in the morning. Then with Ming Dong, the three walked to the main courtyard. By the time Jian Chen and the other two arrived, there was already plenty of people congregated together. Around half of the group were 70-year-old elders that Jian Chen had never seen before. Right in front of them were 4 large flying-type magical beasts perched nearby. From the look of things, these magical beasts were at the Class 3 magical beast level. Flying-type magical beasts were extremely rare treasures within the Tianyuan continent. Not only were flying magical beasts hard to capture, but not many people would dare try to tame them. Once the rider was in the air, their lives would be entrusted to the flying magical beast. If they were to go crazy thousands of kilometers in the air, then even an Earth Saint Master might not be able to survive. Could it be we are to sit on top of a flying magical beast? I've never rode on one before. Upon seeing the 4 magical beasts, Ming Dong cried out with some excitement. Chapter 286, Grand Elder, could it be we are going to ride a flying magical beast? I've never ridden one before. Seeing the flying-type magical beasts, Ming Dong had a look of excitement. Then a look of worry flashed across his face. I've heard that flying magical beasts oftentimes go out of control since their wild nature is stronger than any other magical beast. If by chance the magical beast throws us down from midair, then we would all be resigned to death. A blue-robed youth from not too far away looked down on Ming Dong with a look of despite before sneering at him. "Humph, how cowardly. If you do not wish to ride the flying magical beast, then don't. No one is forcing you." Hearing this, Ming Dong stared at the youth with an angry stare, but before he could say anything, the youth opened his mouth once more. "What? Did you wish to fight? Come then, try and hit me." The youth was overly haughty and didn't even see Ming Dong as his opponent at all. Furthermore, he completely ignored Jian Chen, who was right by Ming Dong's side. The surrounding people looked at the commotion with a cold stare, but not a single person wished to get involved. Jian Chen's face narrowed at the youth's words, however. The arrogant nature of this youth was something that Jian Chen disliked, but before he could raise his hand to teach him a minor lesson, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. It was the sturdy-looking Qin Shao who suddenly appeared right next to the youth before slapping him firmly in the face. "Tianling, you brat!" he spat. "To dare curse at my good friend, you're asking for a spanking." Qin Shao's palm had not been gentle. When the youth had been slapped, he immediately fell to the ground with the part of his face hit already starting to swell. Qin Shao didn't plan on letting Tianling off that easily and immediately kicked him in the stomach, causing the youth to curl up in pain. Opening his mouth, Qin Shao said, "Tianling, you are too arrogant. To dare even curse at the brothers of mine, let's see if you dare repeat it again." Tianling looked at Qin Shao in silent fear. Within the Tianqin clan, Qin Shao had a high position of power and was beloved by many. He was even the son of the patriarch, making him a person very few would dare to provoke. "Enough, Qin Shao, no matter what you say, you and Tianling grew up with each other. Just why should he be friendly to outsiders? Could it be that these outsiders are even more important than your sisters and brothers?" A middle-aged man walked forward before staring icily at Qin Shao. Then, his eyes wandered over to where Jian Chen and Ming Dong was before his expression grew dark. "Uncle." The moment the youth saw the middle-aged man, he began to crawl toward him as if he was his savior. Both eyes then swung toward Jian Chen and Ming Dong with a hate-filled glare. Qin Shao himself restrained himself when he saw this man, but his attitude itself did not. Feeling justified in his actions, he spoke, "Uncle Tianzhou, just what are you saying? Jian Chen and Ming Dong are my sworn brothers, how could they be considered outsiders? Besides, I heard how this matter was started. Tianling was trying to start trouble for no reason and offended my brothers first. This is entirely his fault, just what right does he have to blame someone else?" With a snort, the man ignored Qin Shao's words before looking coldly at Jian Chen and Ming Dong straight into their eyes. "You two, right now we are about to depart from the Zhuya kingdom, please go back to wherever you came from." The man was not at all gentle with his words as he commanded them to leave the area. Hearing this, Jian Chen and Ming Dong both narrowed their eyes. This man was speaking as if he was the patriarch himself giving the orders. Both Jian Chen and Ming Dong had already been guests at the Tianqin clan for 2 months, by now, there was only half a month until the gathering of the mercenaries started. If they were not able to use the space gate, then there would be no possible way for them to reach Mercenary City in such a short amount of time. The man's words had caused Qin Shao to explode with fury as he stomped forward with a furious glare. "Uncle Tianzhou, what is the meaning of this? Brothers Jian Chen and Ming Dong have received the Tianqin clan's invitation to join us on our travels to Mercenary City. They are both the noble guests of our clan, just how could you treat them in such a poor manner?" "Noble guests?" The man laughed in disdain, just how could these two be noble guests of the Tianqin clan? "Nephew Qin Shao, you should do well to not bring as many dubious people back to our clan. The Tianqin clan is the #1 clan in Walorant City, not just any random small clan. This is not a place where you can bring back any dregs of the city to." Looking back to Jian Chen and Ming Dong, the man said, "Be tactful and leave this place at once. This is not a place where you should loiter about. Uncle Tianzhou, you dare to call my friend some random dregs of the city? Then could those 3 men behind you be nobles then? According to your own words, we should not be bringing in the dregs of the city into our Tianqin clan." Qin Shao spoke rudely. If it were any other person that was talking to Qin Shao like the middle-aged man, then they would have been waking up with a headache. This middle-aged man was not someone Qin Shao could defy too much, so he could only hold back his anger. The middle-aged man's face grew dark. "Humph, the 3 brothers behind me are the pillars of my mercenary group and have traveled extensively with me for over 20 years. We've went through multiple life or death situations and even crawled up from the very depths of hell together to become friends until death. Just how could that be compared to the people you've randomly found outside the clan?" With that, the man turned to look at Jian Chen once more. "So you haven't left yet still? Did you wish for me to remove you from this area personally then? The surrounding people were all looking closely at them now. Not a single one of them had said a thing. Although Jian Chen had been a guest, it was a relatively unknown matter. Aside from Qin Shao and a few others, not many people knew Jian Chen. Jian Chen's face began to darken as he spoke. If it is the Patriarch's will, then this one will immediately leave, but whoever you are, how could you represent the will of the Patriarch? Just what qualifications do you have to tell me to leave? To dare refuse to hear me, you are courting death. The man bellowed before a ripple of Saint force formed in his hand. A bright red-colored blade appeared in the man's hands, causing the temperature to skyrocket whenever it was swung. Stay your hand. Just as the man was about to slash into Jian Chen, a dignified-sounding voice suddenly called out, causing everyone to turn to look at the purple-robed patriarch of the Tianqin clan walking toward them. Seeing the patriarch walk by, the man slowly reabsorbed his saint weapon. With a venomous glare, the man looked at Jian Chen. I'll let you off today, leave the Tianqin clan now. Jian Chen's own eyes had a cold tint to them as a small amount of killing intent slowly leaked out from him. There was even a sneer of disdain on Jian Chen's face as well. He knew all too clearly that the man was an Earth Saint Master, and a Fire Saint Master at that. A single strike of his would be extremely overwhelming, but even then, Jian Chen did not see it as a threat to him. Ming Dong still had an angry look on face. The words of the middle-aged man did not leave him with a happy sensation. Even Qin Shao looked quite troubled. The patriarch only needed to take a single look at Qin Shao to know what event had just transpired. With a dark look, he turned to look at the middle-aged man. Tianzhou, brother Jian Chen is an honored guest of our Tianqin clan. Just how could you be so rude to him? The one called Tianzhou snorted before giving an askew glance at Jian Chen and Ming Dong. Elder brother Qin, just when will you learn of nephew Qin Zhao's attitude? Going around randomly and pretending that two younger generation men are our honored guests. If the Tianqin clan were to be different than what it is now with big brother Tian Ming as the patriarch, then we wouldn't have any random person enter our clan. What's even more ridiculous is that our Tianqin clan is for some reason bringing two outsiders through the space gate to enter Mercenary City. Big brother Qin, do you not realize just how costly the price of using the space gate is? Shut your mouth. The patriarch's face became gravely serious. Tianzhou, how can you speak to me in such a manner? Tianzhou, it seems your time in the outside world has made you even more narrow-minded than before. Brother Jian Chen is an honored guest within our Tianqin clan. With this type of treatment toward our guest, just how could our reputation not be tarnished by this? Hurry up and apologize to brother Jian Chen immediately. The patriarch bellowed angrily. Like father like son. Wanting me to apologize to the younger generation? That is just wishful thinking. Tianzhou spoke haughtily. As if he was a high and mighty clan leader, he simply gave no face at all to the patriarch. With that, he leaped into the air and landed on the back of one of the flying magical beasts. Then, the three men behind him followed suit and landed on top of the flying magical beast as well. Seeing how Tianzhou was so condescending to the others, the patriarch of the Tianqin clan narrowed his eyes. His chest began to heave heavily in anger, showing that he was not pleased at all. Qin Shao walked up to Jian Chen and whispered to him, "That man is Uncle Tianzhou. He's a part of the Tian family and holds a high position within the Tianqin clan that is almost as powerful as my father. He has been traveling in the outside world for many a years and only returned to the clan 2 days ago. It seems that he has a major complaint with you here. In the future, you must take care, since he is an Earth Saint Master." Jian Chen nodded his head and said, "I will be careful." Just at that moment, a black-robed elder dropped down from the skies before somehow floating 10 meters above the ground before looking at everyone there. "We see the Grand Elder." As soon as everyone saw this elder, everyone within the clan compound bowed deeply. Even the Tian Zhou who was sitting on the flying magical beast immediately got up to bow down respectfully. A heaven saint master. Seeing the floating elder, Jian Chen's pupils dilated in shock. This Tianqin clan had unexpectedly had a heaven saint master expert. The elder looked at both the patriarch of the Tianqin clan and Tian Zhou before looking at the nearby Qin Shao with a kind smile on his face. The moment his eyes landed upon Jian Chen, there was a look of extreme disbelief, but that was quickly hidden away from his eyes. Exhaling, the elder's gaze grew complicated once more. Regret could be seen along with rejoicement, but then even an eager expectation could be seen, causing people to be confused. Tian Zhou, Qin Yisheng. The elder spoke. I am at the Grand Elder's command. The Patriarch and Tian Zhou both spoke out. The very first teachings of the Tianqin clan passed down from our ancestors are something you too should understand. In the case that the two of you are trying to split the Tianqin clan, then a serious punishment awaits the both of you. The elder spoke calmly, but when the two men heard those words, their hearts shook with fear. The Grand Elder needn't worry, we adhere to the ancestors' teachings and will defend the feelings of the Tianqin clan. The Patriarch said. Tian Zhou bowed his head. I, Tian Zhou, respect the ancestors' teachings and will strive to protect the clan's feelings. Good. The elder nodded his head. Is everyone here? Everyone is here, Grand Elder. The Patriarch spoke straight away. Then let us be off now. After that, everyone climbed onto the back of the flying magical beast. Each one of them had dozens of people, totaling to 40 people per beast. Ming Dong and Jian Chen both sat on the same magical beast along with another 7 people sitting right next to them on its back. With a fierce flap of its wings, the flying magical beast immediately took off into the air and began to accelerate. The Grand Elder of the Tianqin clan began to follow close behind, flying on his own as if to personally oversee their trip. Chapter 287, Space Gate. The flying magical beast rose several kilometers into the air at a rapid speed while the Grand Elder followed close behind on his own. He was there to protect them all in the case that a flying magical beasts went out of control. Although this was not a common occurrence, the majority of these riders were members of the Tianqin clan and were the future of the clan. There was no way the Grand Elder would want them to come across an accident. Sitting on top of a flying magical beast, Jian Chen's expression was quite complicated. His mind couldn't help but think of the Huayun sect who had forced him to run away from his home. At that time, it was Changbai who was the one who drove the flying magical beast from Lore City. Then, he thought of his extremely lovable mother Bai Yuntian and his elegant flower-like second sister Changyang Mingyue. Then there was also his sturdy eldest brother Changyang Hu and the ever-so dignified father and leader of the clan, Changyang Ba. Each one of their images suddenly burned brightly within Jian Chen's mind, as well as a few other fragments of memories from his time in the Changyang mansion. Huayun sect. Jian Chen clenched both of his fists tightly in anger. He had been forced to escape from the Jessan kingdom because of them. It was unfortunate that the Huayun sect had so much power within the kingdom and had at least 2 heaven saint masters enlisted within their ranks. This had made even the royal family of the Jessan kingdom unable to help him and the Changyang clan unable to do anything. Huayun sect, just wait for me to return. Jian Chen will return to right this. These years have made me into a wanderer with no home. This debt, I will return unto you. Jian Chen's eyes flashed with a terrifying amount of power. He knew that while he was an Earth Saint Master and had the sword spirits with him, no Earth Saint Master could threaten him, but Heaven Saint Masters were something Jian Chen would have trouble against. Each realm after the Earth Saint Master realm was like crossing the endless ocean to attain a new height. The difference was like the heavens and the earth themselves and could not be easily described. The amount of saint force within a Heaven Saint Master was a terrifying amount. They could use it to support themselves as they flew several kilometers into the air to travel and never ran out. It was only if they had gone through a long and intense battle that their saint force would start to feel the effects. Jian Chen continued to sit on top of the flying magical beast as the wind flew past his ears, sounding like a clap of thunder that affected everyone's ears. On the way, several groups of men flying on their own flying-type magical beasts could be seen not too far away. Each one of these men were strong powers within the Wuxia kingdom, and each major group had a single Heaven Saint Master following behind to offer protection. These Heaven Saint Masters and the Tianqin clan's Grand Elder bade a polite greeting as if they were good friends with each other before continuing on with their journey together. Not everyone who wanted to go to Mercenary City had access to a flying magical beast. On the ground far below, countless groups traveled on magical beasts or on foot in great numbers. Each group numbered over 100 while the dust behind them was kicked up, causing the scene to look as if there was a large dirt-colored dragon below. Half a day later, everyone had finally left the borders of the Wuxia kingdom. With another day's time, they finally arrived at the kingdom that had the space gate called the Dazhou Kingdom. I've heard my father once say that there was a time the Dazhou Kingdom was in a golden age where its strength was strong enough to be great friends with the three great empires. The space gate was then left behind by the unbelievably strong protector of the realm. However, when the protector of the realm left, the Dazhou Kingdom began to slowly decline before becoming an obscure and small kingdom like it is today. Qin Shao explained to Jian Chen. Jian Chen could only sigh at the absolute power a strong cultivator could have. He had no idea that even an extremely strong kingdom would slowly decline after the loss of a strong cultivator. While the Dazhou Kingdom had declined, the amount of territory it had remained the same. It took a good part of the day for the flying magical beasts to finally approach the imperial city of the Dazhou Kingdom. The murmur from the people riding on the magical beasts began to grow louder as they approached the city. Jian Chen could see that there were at least 10 Heaven Saint Masters flying together behind them. Aside from that, there was still another Heaven Saint Master riding on a flying magical beast, but he had been harder to discover. These men were from different kingdoms and regions where they represented different factions of power, but each one of them was planning to head to Mercenary City. The Tianqin clan's group was led down to the outside of the imperial palace by the Grand Elder. Then, a single armored person came out to greet the Grand Elder with a cordial greeting before ushering everyone inside a courtyard to rest. The space gate will open in 2 days, these next 2 days you can rest easily, but don't wander off. This is still the imperial palace of the Dazhou Kingdom. If you cause a disturbance, the clan will not be able to protect you. The Grand Elder warned everyone before leaving. Tian Zhou glared icily at Jian Chen before snorting and turning to walk out of the room. Although he had desperately wanted to teach Jian Chen a lesson, he was in the imperial palace just like Jian Chen, so he didn't dare cause trouble now. Qin Shao walked up to Jian Chen's side and spoke with some concern. Jian Chen, Tian Zhou will be participating in the gathering of the mercenaries. In the case that you come across him, please be careful. Jian Chen nodded without saying a word. These next 2 days were relatively peaceful as the entire Tianqin clan all behaved themselves while resting within the courtyard provided to them by the imperial palace. Not a single one of them left the courtyard in fear of causing unneeded trouble. Although the Dazhou Kingdom was stagnating, the kingdom was still capable of making the other kingdoms feel fear. 2 days later, the Tianqin clan followed the Grand Elder out of the courtyard and between the giant pavilions of the palace before finally stopping in front of a large piece of ground. There was already a large amount of people gathered here. At the very least, there were upward of 1,000 men all densely gathered within this piece of ground. Jian Chen tilted his head. He could faintly see a heavily encased area that spanned around 100 meters in circumference and had plenty of people stopping right in front of it. I've heard that the protector of the realm left this barrier many years ago. It's so extremely big and even after so many years, no one has been able to break it. Rumors say that when the Dazhou Kingdom was in a war, a saint ruler stealthily snuck into the Dazhou kingdom in order to strike at this barrier and take away the space gate. Unfortunately, even with all of his strength, he wasn't able to even dent the barrier and could only retreat in defeat. The Dazhou kingdom's protector of the realm was extremely strong. He has long since stood at the apex of the Tianyuan continent. The barriers he could make are unbreakable to any saint ruler. I've heard that the Dazhou kingdom's protector of the realm had reached the pinnacle a long time ago. When he disappeared, he must have been trying to make it past the final bottleneck. Seeing how it's been several hundred years, it seems that he was defeated before he could make that breakthrough. The peerless protector of the realm has long left this world. What a shame. How unfortunate for this type of expert to leave the world. The people all around them began to talk among each other as they talked about the barrier. Many of them could only sigh as they looked at this particular barrier in respect and adoration. For even a saint ruler to not be able to break apart this barrier, just how strong was the Dazhou kingdom's protector of the realm? One person whispered in disbelief. Suddenly, the entire crowd went quiet as if everyone had simultaneously shut their mouths. Following the silence, 5 white-robed elders suddenly came dropping down from the skies gracefully. From this, Jian Chen felt as if these men were immortals descending down onto the mortal plane. These 5 elders walked over to 5 different points on the barrier before a 5-star array began to grow brightly on the ground. At this moment, one of the elders in the middle cupped their hands. It has been 50 years since the last time. Today we meet once more, and next, we will be employing a secret method to temporarily close the barrier to the space gate. Everyone will be able to travel to Mercenary City afterward. The way to use the space gate should be familiar to everyone, so we shall not spend any more time explaining it. Afterward, the 5 elders began to open up the barrier. One by one, men began to slowly move forward into the large ripple of energy that was the space gate. Just like that, each one disappeared from sight. Quickly came the Tianqin clan's turn. At this moment, Jian Chen could finally see the space gate that was hidden at first by the barrier. The space gate was 3 meters tall and the energy that was moving around the space gate was strong enough to distort the space around it. The area didn't seem very stable and the light was shining out in intense rays with a mysterious glow. Underneath the space gate was a mysterious matrix with several Class 5 monster cores at certain points of the matrix. Each supply point of these monster cores had supported the space gate when it opened. This was a type of portal that allowed one to travel through space and linked 2 different places, and could be used to cross over the endless ocean. Chapter 288. Arriving at Mercenary City. The space gate was open for use, but it was not free of charge. Every single person had to hand over a few Class 5 monster cores. While the numbers varied, the average person only handed over a single Class 5 monster core in the end. This type of entry price would have made the Xia clan and the Tianhua sect in the Blue Wind Kingdom find it hard to pay, but this was where multiple experts of various kingdoms gathered, accompanied by Heaven Saint Masters. A few Class 5 monster cores wasn't something they would see as expensive. The Tianqin clan had 40 men in attendance, but over half of them were only bodyguards for the trip. So in truth, there were only 10 or so men actually going to Mercenary City. The Grand Elder led the group to the space gate and swept a glance at the men behind him, before passing several Class 5 monster cores to the Heaven Saint Master standing watch. There are 9 men total here, and we have 9 monster cores as well. The Heaven Saint Master from the Dazhou Kingdom took the monster cores with a smile. You may enter. I hope that you will have a satisfactory competition. The Grand Elder spoke a few more polite words with the Heaven Saint Master before walking through the space gate. With a single step, he was able to cross thousands of miles to the other side of the Tianyuan continent. Afterwards, Jian Chen and Ming Dong followed behind Qin Shao in succession through the space gate. Aside from the Grand Elder, Tian Zhou and his 3 mercenary friends, Ming Dong, Jian Chen and Qin Shao, there was one other cold-looking middle-aged man. He wore a black robe, and had a face that seemed as if it had never once smiled before. Both of his eyes were exceptionally cold as they flashed with a dangerous gleam. Jian Chen, that man is called Qin Ju. However, he is not a direct descendant of the Tianqin clan. He was an abandoned infant from the outside world picked up by my father. On the outside, he is cold and detached, but because he was raised by the Tianqin clan, his heart is loyal to us. Furthermore, because of his talent at cultivation and strength, as well as his hard work, he became an Earth Saint Master 3 years ago. Qin Shao spoke to Jian Chen in a low voice, a look of extreme admiration on his face. With that, the Tianqin clan crossed through the space gate. The moment Jian Chen stepped across, he could feel nothing but an invisible, protective layer of energy cover him before reaching the other side. He appeared in a dense forest, where hundreds of people had already gathered up. They had passed through the space gate to first. I didn't think that this world would have something as mysterious as the space gate. Just what kind of amazing methods did the exceptional expert who created this space gate use? Jian Chen sighed in admiration. He greatly desired to reach such a goal, and looked forward to the day he'd reach such a level as well. Let's go, Mercenary City is right in front of us. After waiting for everyone to arrive, the Grand Elder led the group out of the forest. Since magical beasts weren't allowed to enter the space gate, everyone could only walk. Despite that fact, the traveling pace was quite fast. The forest wasn't very large. When they walked out of it, they entered a plain, where there were quite a few men like Jian Chen's group that were walking towards Mercenary City. From time to time, a few other groups riding magical beasts would pass by, sending dust flying into the air. There were some others flitting across the sky on some flying-type magical beasts as well. Everything was the same as when Jian Chen's group had first left the Tianqin clan. The only difference in their journey now was that they were walking rather than flying. On the road, Tian Zhou continued to stare coldly at Jian Chen's back. If it were not for his worry about the Grand Elder, then Tian Zhou would have most likely struck out at him. Seeing how Jian Chen had been ignoring him as if he hadn't noticed Tian Zhou's existence, Tian Zhou was angry enough to visibly gnash his teeth. His heart truly wished for Jian Chen to say something contradictory, that way, Tian Zhou would be able to teach him a lesson. 4 hours later, the Grand Elder finally led the entire group to Mercenary City. Mercenary City was an enormous city that was spread over an extremely vast piece of ground. The only difference between Mercenary City and the other cities was that there was no walls here at all. One could enter the city from any direction. Instead, there was a giant golden barrier that glowed faintly around the city, protecting Mercenary City within. I want everyone to remember that no matter what, do not start a fight within Mercenary City or you'll risk a severe punishment. There are many powers in the city that we cannot afford to offend, so you would do well to remember this one rule. The Grand Elder spoke sternly to the group he was leading. Yes, Grand Elder. The men all cried out respectfully. With that, everyone began to walk into Mercenary City. Although there were no walls, the interior of the city wasn't all that much different from any other city, with various shops and taverns crammed together all over the city. The gathering of the mercenaries would start after another half-month, so the Tianqin clan had set up a temporary place of residency in a tavern. The next day, Qin Shao, Jian Chen, and Ming Dong all left to take a stroll around the city. The Grand Elder had disappeared by the second day, just like he had when they were back in the imperial palace of the Dazhou kingdom. No one knew where he went, but he hadn't restricted anyone from going anywhere. The next few days were rather calm, but more and more people began to flow into Mercenary City. Every single inn was completely filled with men, and there were even many tents set up outside the city. In a flash, half a month had gone by. Early that morning, the Grand Elder finally appeared in front of the Tianqin clan once more, and led the group to the center of Mercenary City. Ming Dong, take the next few days to rest and be careful. Jian Chen called out to Ming Dong as he left. Ming Dong nodded his head before clapping him on the shoulders. I understand, make sure you come back safely. I'll be waiting for you. The Grand Elder turned to look at Ming Dong. Mercenary City is an extremely safe city. You will never find a city safer than this one. Just remember, do not start a fight within Mercenary City no matter what, or else no one will be able to save you. I thank the Elder for the warning. Ming Dong cupped his hands together respectfully. The group quickly arrived at the center of Mercenary City. It was an extremely large plaza, but it had already been filled to many people to count. Jian Chen could only guess there to be at least 100,000. In the middle, there was a 50-meter tall tower with a single, vivid and lifelike sculpture of a middle-aged man. There was a mysterious charm to it that made it seem as if a real person had been petrified. Its finger pointed toward the distant horizon, as if trying to penetrate the heavens. The entire area around the sculpture, quite a few elders, as well as some middle-aged men with extraordinary presence, looking at the sculpture with both great respect and a hint of fear. Could it be that this sculpture is of Mercenary City's founder? I've heard that the founder was a person of unbelievable strength and has even been said to be a paragon under the heavens. It was said that nobody was able to rival him. Unfortunately, he has gone missing for many years. According to the ancient records, when the Age of Chaos descended upon the Tianyuan continent, humanity was on the brink of extinction after being faced off against hundreds of races. But when humanity was at the end of their road, a genius with enough power to shock the world appeared to fight against the experts of each of those races. In the end, the enemies of humanity were chased away and thus the humans of the continent were saved. This savior then established Mercenary City and spurred the development of mercenaries within the continent. The ancient records also said that the founder of Mercenary City was called Mo Yuntian. He was said to be the strongest person to ever exist. There are no later records of him. He probably left this world for another. By now, it's been 100,000 years since Mo Yuntian's era, but no one is capable of living that long. It is a shame that this once-in-a-millennium talent was unable to break away from the predestined end. One could see the elders discussing this from anywhere in the plaza. Every one of the elders looked toward the sculpture with reverence, and even the Grand Elder was no exception. Chapter 289, The Summoning of Ming Dong. Seeing how everyone was talking, Jian Chen looked at the large sculpture as well. Suddenly, a blue-robed elder came down from the sky. His facial characteristics were nothing out of the ordinary, but the very moment he had appeared, the world essence in the air suddenly went still. An overwhelming amount of pressure overtook it, causing everyone there to feel as if their heart would stop. When the elder appeared, everyone else suddenly ceased talking and descended into a period of silence. The elder floated in the air, standing high above even the heads of the Heaven Saint Masters. With an elderly voice, he spoke out, I proclaim now that the bicentennial gathering of the mercenaries has officially started. Every participant should remain standing while every other person should move back. With the elder's words, the sudden movements of the crowd could be heard as the men who were older than the rules dictated immediately began to move away. Jian Chen, take care of yourself. Ming Dong spoke to Jian Chen before following the ground to leave. As the amount of people lessened, there still remained several tens of thousands of people. Seeing how the group in front of him was beginning to lessen, the elder spoke out once more, the gathering of the mercenaries permits those under the age of 50 to participate. In the case that someone over the age of 50 tries, then they will suffer the harsh punishment from the barrier and be annihilated. For those who are over the age of 50, leave now. This is your final warning. Several hundred men then left the group slowly with looks of dissatisfaction. With the final stragglers all gone, the elder waved his sleeves, causing several hundred black tokens to fly out toward the thousands of people below. Jian Chen grabbed onto one of the tokens that fluttered down to him. It was around the size of his palm and was created by a material unknown to him. It was unnaturally hard and didn't seem to be easily breakable. Furthermore, there was a strange energy that flowed in it. The elder looked down onto the crowd and spoke, "This is the command token. The first competition will be a free-for-all in a special region that you will be sent to after the world door opens. After that year, the top 500 people with tokens will qualify." Cupping his hands, he spoke up to the air, "May the elder open the world door." The world essence grew deathly still once more, along with everyone else suddenly going motionless where even the breathing of people could be heard. Suddenly, a massive amount of energy began to flow from the skies, attracting everyone in sight. Everyone could only see the first signs of energy being warped about in midair, and in 2 brief moments, a strong multicolored light could be seen from the rapidly expanding space. Quickly, 100-meter wide hole could be seen with a large space of what could only be described as chaotic inside. The pitch-dark token in everyone's hands began to glow a dark light before enveloping everyone within it, elevating them up into the air toward the hole. Ah! Suddenly, a miserable cry could be heard as one of the men close to the tear in the sky began to melt quickly right in front of them. In a small amount of time, not even a single trace of their body could be seen remaining. For those over the age of 50, they will incur the wrath of the world door and will dissipate from the world itself. There is no need for panic, those under the age of 50 will be allowed in with no problems. The floating elder spoke. Many men began to look frightened as they began to struggle in midair. I give up. I don't wish to participate anymore." Unfortunately, they were already slowly rising into the air because of the energy that enveloped their body. They could only helplessly rise up into the air toward the hole. "I gave you a chance before, that opportunity has nigh passed." The elder spoke with a cold glare. Ah! Another pain-filled shriek could be heard coming from a man as he began to burn from the inside out alive. In a second, his body had disintegrated into the air. "I beg of you, please let us go, please, I no longer wish to participate." A few men who were over the age of 50 that tried to take advantage of the crowd immediately tried to beg for forgiveness. The elder narrowed his eyes as he looked at them with an impatient look. With a wave of his hands, the balls of energy began to accelerate toward the hole in the sky. Ah! Following several cries of fear, those who were over the age of 50 were quickly burnt to ashes that were then burned up as well. This sight shocked everyone who witnessed it, and those who were older than 50 but had left earlier rejoiced to themselves secretly. Afterward, all those who were remaining began to disappear from sight into the hole. Let me through, I wish to participate." Suddenly, a voice behind the group could be heard as Ming Dong charged toward the ascending group with a pleading look at the floating elder. The stares of every person there concentrated onto Ming Dong as if he were an idiot. The distribution of the tokens had already been finished, and the group was already disappearing into the chaotic space to start the competition. Just what reason would the elder have to stop to allow a single person entry? Still raising into the air, Jian Chen turned to look at Ming Dong with a surprised look. He didn't understand just what reason Ming Dong had for suddenly wanting to join the gathering of the mercenaries. The floating elder furrowed his eyebrows together in annoyance as he looked at Ming Dong. Just as he was about to send him away, a sudden change in expression could be seen before a black token shoot toward Ming Dong's hand. "Enter then." He spoke softly. In a split second, the elder's treatment of Ming Dong had done a complete reversal. His voice wasn't as cold as before. Instead, it was much warmer now. Those who knew of the elder on a personal all dropped open their mouths in shock as they looked at him in shock. "It seems that youth is no ordinary person," a person whispered. Jian Chen looked on with shock as well as he saw Ming Dong begin to rise up into the air after them. He felt confusion in his heart as he tried to figure out just what had just happened. A flash of concern came over his face. The elder's words were quite clear: after they passed through the world door, it would be a free-for-all. With Ming Dong being a primary great saint master, the amount of danger he would have to face would be obscenely absurd. Even if they were together, Jian Chen would be powerless to protect him. The token in Jian Chen's hand brought him through the hole and dropped him in the middle of a thick forest. Everywhere he looked, all he could see were trees. Suddenly, multiple blurs came flashing down from the sky down next to him. Seeing just who was right next to him, Jian Chen let out a smile. "Ming Dong, so it is you. How excellent, to think that you would be right besides me." The person who had fell next to him had been unexpectedly Ming Dong. As if shocked at the sudden shout, he reflexively brought out his saint weapon in preparation to fight. But as soon as he heard the familiar sound, a smile lit up his face as he absorbed his weapon. "Jian Chen, so it's you. This is great, with us two combined, we'll definitely be able to forge ahead." "Ah, Ming Dong, weren't you against participating in the gathering of the mercenaries? Why is it that you've suddenly changed your mind? That strong elder had unexpectedly allowed you to enter as well." Jian Chen's face held some confusion. Hearing this, Ming Dong's face went blank. "Even I don't know why I suddenly decided to participate. I felt as if someone was calling me here and the feeling was growing stronger and stronger. In the end, I suddenly found myself unable to control myself before coming here." "What, you felt someone calling you? Then can you still sense the calling right now?" Jian Chen was shocked at this strange development. Ming Dong closed his eyes to concentrate before nodding slightly. "I can still feel it, but the call is much weaker than before." Jian Chen narrowed his eyes in thought. "Then can you sense where the call is coming from?" "From the east." Ming Dong pointed. Jian Chen looked toward the direction Ming Dong was pointing with a thoughtful glance. "Then let's go there and see just what is calling you." With that, Jian Chen and Ming Dong began to walk toward the east. The place Jian Chen and Ming Dong were in was an isolated mountain range with a sinister environment as multiple poisonous insects and vipers could be found. Suddenly, Ming Dong's body plunged into the earth. He had unexpectedly stepped into a barely visible swampland. Ming Dong slapped at the swamp in order to fly out, but before he could move, his face suddenly winced. "Something has bitten onto my leg, help me." With great shock, Jian Chen immediately grabbed onto Ming Dong's shoulders. Ming Dong immediately flew into the air, and at the same time, a poisonous viper as thick as Jian Chen's head followed after him with both of its fangs clamped tightly onto Ming Dong's legs. Jian Chen's eyes flashed as he brought out his light wind sword. With a quick slash, the snake was cut into several pieces, causing blood to rain down below. Jian Chen caught Ming Dong as he fell from the sky. Although the snake had been cut apart from him, the head of the snake was still attached to Ming Dong's legs. With another wave of his hand, the sword in his hand flashed once more before splitting the snake head in two. As for the area where the snake had bitten, the venom had already entered Ming Dong's wound, turning the immediate area around it blue while rapidly spreading. Ming Dong took out a white bottle from his space belt and began to sprinkle the area around it while muttering, "It's a good thing I bought some antidote from Walrant City. This type of antidote is quite famous around the continent that can cure hundreds of poisons. The only bad thing about it is its price." Jian Chen looked at the wound on Ming Dong's leg. "Are you able to walk then?" After treating the poison, Ming Dong began to flex both of his legs before smiling. "It's a good thing the wound isn't too deep. There is no problem, let's keep moving." "Be careful then, we'll keep going, but we don't know what's in this place yet. There's still plenty of people we have yet to see," Jian Chen said. "Wait a moment." Ming Dong walked up to the carcass of the snake before cutting it open. Extracting a monster core from it, he laughed. "This type of stuff shouldn't be thrown away, or else it would be a waste of money." Jian Chen couldn't help but laugh. The snake was only at the Class 3 level, so a Class 3 monster core was not something he had thought to be valuable. After this harrowing experience, the two continued on their journey with caution. Although they were very cautious, the hidden dangers of the area continued to surprise them as they continued. The areas that seemed to be solid ground turned out to be swamps that acted like quicksand. Even Jian Chen had been victim to this several times, but he had been able to quickly escape. While in the mountain range, they would come across a few magical beasts. Most of them were Class 3 or Class 4 magical beasts, and the majority of them were quite poisonous. Jian Chen and Ming Dong continued forward for another half-day before Jian Chen suddenly halted. His ears began to tremble as he waited for movement. After a moment, Jian Chen let out a smile. After half a day of walking, we've finally come across another person. This place is quite large for us to take this long to see a person if there is several 100,000 people here. Jian Chen, there's someone nearby? Ming Dong looked at Jian Chen with surprise, but there was a look of joy on his face. Jian Chen nodded his head. Correct, there's just one person not too far away from here. From the sounds of things, he's coming toward us. How strong do you think he is? If he's an Earth Saint Master, then we'll be in trouble. Ming Dong had a serious look on his face now. Jian Chen clapped Ming Dong's shoulders casually. Don't you worry. The amount of Earth Saint Masters under the age of 50 is quite low. How could it be that easy to come across one? Let's go see just how strong this person is and just how we'll obtain his token. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.